Chapter 2100. It's only been 2,000 years, but you've grown so fast. You're amazing. Gu Tongyu recognized Su Zimo's identity and let down his guard. He couldn't help but praise him. Qiu Siluo smiled. Although we've saved you, you've also saved us just now. Don't call me savior. It's too distant. That's how it should be. Gu Tongyu nodded slightly and asked, how should I address you? I'm Su Zimo. Su Zimo didn't hide his identity in front of Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo. Gu Tongyu's expression changed. He seemed to have thought of something and asked, all these years, a duke of the great Jin celestial kingdom has been chasing after that person. That's me. Su Zimo nodded. Gu Tongyu said, Brother Su, your disguise is really amazing. There are no flaws at all. No wonder you could hide for 2,000 years under the pursuit of the great Jin celestial kingdom. But because you saved us, your identity was exposed. I'm afraid you can't stay in the astral sect anymore. Qiu Siluo looked guilty. Su Zimo shook his head. Even if this didn't happen, I was going to leave. Previously, he was in a hurry to cultivate in seclusion. After coming out of seclusion, he didn't plan to stay in the great Jin celestial kingdom anymore. He must find a chance to leave. In the great Jin celestial kingdom, he had offended a duke and could be hunted down at any time. His life was in danger. Only by leaving the territory of the great Jin celestial kingdom could he alleviate the current situation. If he wanted to get out of this situation, the best way was to find a shelter, a force that could compete with the great Jin celestial kingdom. Only by leaving the great Jin celestial kingdom can we survive. Gu Tongyu said in a low voice. The situation they were facing was not much different from Su Zimo's. Moreover, the person they had offended was more powerful and had a higher status than Duke Yuanzhua. What are your plans for the future? Su Zimo asked. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo looked at each other, and the melancholy in their eyes deepened. They sighed softly. We've offended Zither Immortal Mengyao. I'm afraid we can't stay in the divine firmament immortal realm anymore. Is this Mengyao so scary? Su Zimo asked with a frown. Qiu Siluo explained. If Mengyao was only a princess of the great Jin celestial nation, she wouldn't have such great influence. But she's still a true disciple of the Flying Immortal sect. Each of the 4 major immortal sects doesn't have many true disciples. Only those who have reached the true One realm and become a true immortal can become a true immortal. The true disciples of the 4 major celestial sects are respected even in the 9 cloud celestial realm, let alone the divine firmament celestial realm. Moreover, Mengyao is one of the 4 great fairies. All the strong cultivators in the divine firmament celestial realm, and even the 9 heavens celestial realm, were proud to be able to listen to Mengyao's music. In the 9 firmaments immortal realm, there is a saying that goes, heavenly music, priceless to describe Zither immortal. None of the top forces in the divine firmament celestial realm would offend the Zither immortal Mengyao for the 2 of us. Su Zimo was silent. In other words, Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo's situation was even more serious than his. We might go to the other celestial realms. Gu Tongyu paused for a moment before continuing. If we really have no other choice, we can only go to the demon realm. The demon realm? Su Zimo couldn't help but think of the Thunder Emperor, who had already gone to the demon realm. He wondered how the Thunder Emperor was doing now, and whether his injuries had healed. Brother Su, just now, I heard you mention that your Taoist heart was damaged because someone very important to you left. Gu Tongyu suddenly asked. Yes. Su Zimo sighed. In his mind, he recalled Ji Yaoshua's voice and face. He was in a daze. Although many things had happened today, Ji Yaoshua had only left for less than a day. Su Zimo still couldn't shake off his depressed mood. He only felt that his chest was stuffy and uncomfortable, but he had nowhere to vent. The more he was like this, the harder it was for his Taoist heart to heal. If he couldn't get out of this predicament, it was very likely that it would form a vicious cycle, and he would sink into it forever. Gu Tongyu and Qiu Siluo looked at each other and nodded slightly. Qiu Siluo placed the soul-hooking zither on her knees and gently plucked the strings with her jade-like fingers, making a sound like flowing water. It sounded like water droplets dripping, but also like shooting stars streaking across the night sky, empty and lively. In an instant, Su Zimo seemed to have passed through a water curtain, causing ripples, as if he had returned to the past in an instant. Gu Tongyu picked up the luopa flute and put it to his lips. A mellow sound of the flute sounded, as if weeping and complaining. Su Zimo saw Ji Yaoshua again, the woman he couldn't forget. From the first time they met to the great Zhou dynasty's imperial city, nothing seemed to be different. But in this memory, Su Zimo and Ji Yaoshua became Taoist companions and accompanied each other, leaving behind countless happy times. Su Zimo didn't ascend, and also accompanied Ji Yaoshua as they slowly grew old. In the end, the two fell asleep in each other's arms, and were buried in the same grave. The sound of the zither and the flute gradually faded until it was silent. When Su Zimo woke up, his face was already covered in tears. After receiving the news of Ji Yaoshua's departure, he had nowhere to vent, and kept it bottled up in his heart. Gu Tongyu and Xiao Siluo could both see that Su Zimo's state of mind was extremely poor. Not to mention the recovery of his Tao heart, it was very likely that he would suffer from qi deviation in his future cultivation. The two were proficient in the Tao of music. When they played the zither and flute together, they brought Su Zimo into a memory. Su Zimo's emotions rose and fell along with the sound of the zither and flute. In this memory, he vented out and obtained relief. When Su Zimo woke up, the scar on his Tao heart had quietly healed. The qi of heaven and earth in his body was constantly surging and boiling, like a tidal wave, constantly washing over his physical body. The inheritance of the Stellaris sect was only now playing its role. When Su Zimo received the inheritance, Qinghuiyan's real body was bearing the starlight of 2 star fields. These starlights came from the vast stars. Each ray of starlight contained rich and pure qi of heaven and earth. When Su Zimo received the inheritance, it also meant that the qi of heaven and earth was absorbed into his body. However, his Tao heart was damaged, and the qi of heaven and earth had accumulated in his body, so he had not been able to break through. Now that his Tao heart had recovered, the accumulated qi of heaven and earth was rapidly erupting. Su Zimo's realm had broken through again. 6th level Earth Immortal. After breaking through to the 6th level of the Earth Origin realm, the qi of heaven and earth in his body was still extremely vast. If he refined all the qi of heaven and earth, he could even reach the peak of 6th level Earth Immortal. However, this place was not suitable for cultivation. Su Zimo temporarily suppressed the qi of heaven and earth in his body, wiped away the tears on his face, and bowed deeply to Gu Tongyu and Xiao Siluo. There was no need to express his gratitude. He had firmly remembered this kindness in his heart. Xiao Siluo smiled slightly. Su Zimo said with emotion, "I have never heard the Zither Fairy's music, but I think her Zither music must be comparable to Taoist Qiu's to be worthy of the title of Zither Fairy. How can I compare to the Zither Fairy?" Xiao Siluo smiled. "I still don't know the name of the song just now." Su Zimo asked again. "Reminiscence," Xiao Siluo said. "Reminiscence, reminiscence," Su Zimo murmured softly. Chapter 2101. Brother Su, we've lost 13 executioners. The Great Jin Celestial Empire won't let this go. We can't stay here any longer, Gu Tongyu said. In just a short while, the injuries on their bodies had healed quite a bit, and their movements were no longer hindered. Since we both want to leave the Great Jin Celestial Empire, why don't we travel together? We can look out for each other, Xiao Siluo suggested. Gu Tongyu shook his head. Brother Su, I had the same idea but I gave up on it. We've offended the Zither immortal Mingyao. She's a true immortal. Since she failed to kill us this time, she might send the executioners next time. She might even come herself. If you travel with us, you'll be more likely to be implicated. Xiao Siluo nodded. That's right. Pondering for a moment, Su Zimo suddenly said, Both of you, the leader of the Executioner Heavenly Guards has a blood-guiding secret skill that allows him to determine your location through your blood. It's fine. Gu Tongyu waved his hand. The Luapa flute and soul-hooking zither in our hands can cut off the blood technique's detection. That's good. Su Zimo was relieved. Gu Tongyu suddenly said, Brother Su, take the Luapa flute with you. A trace of reluctance flashed in Gu Tongyu's eyes, but he still handed the Luapa flute over. Su Zimo was touched. He knew that Gu Tongyu was worried that he would be found by the blood technique and captured by the executioners. The importance of the Luapa flute to Gu Tongyu was self-evident. Treasures like the Luapa flute and soul-hooking zither had even alarmed the zither immortal, which showed how precious they were. But now, Gu Tongyu was worried about his safety, so he gave the Luapa flute to him without hesitation. Su Zimo shook his head. "Brother Gu, don't worry. I also have something on me that the executioner's blood technique can't sense." It was the Thunder Jade Pendant that the Thunder Emperor had given him. It was because of this Jade Pendant and the 3 gems Jade Rui that Su Zimo could hide in the Stellaris sect for more than 2,000 years. Gu Tongyu said in a low voice, "All right, Brother Su. We'll part here. If we're lucky enough to survive, we'll meet again in the future. Let's meet again if fate allows it." Su Zimo also cupped his fists and bade farewell. Gu Tongyu and Xiao Siluo soared into the air and left toward the west. With a wave of his hand, Su Zimo put away all 49 formation flags. These array flags had already become ownerless items. If he could refine them and use them properly, they would be a powerful trump card. Although he had the Thunder Jade Pendant, out of caution, Su Zimo still condensed the Kacharati Dao fire and burned the corpses on the ground. These executioner guards were already dead. They had no Yuan Qi or essence spirit. Just the Kacharati Dao fire was enough to incinerate these corpses. Flames soared into the sky. Su Zimo was just about to leave when a stream of light suddenly sped over from afar at an astonishing speed. Su Zimo was shocked. At this moment, it was already too late for him to activate the Tri-Jade Rui to change his appearance. What was even more frightening was that the pressure emitted by the cultivator was overwhelming and far exceeded what he could endure. A heavenly immortal expert. And a very high-level heavenly immortal expert. In the face of a heavenly immortal expert, he had almost no means to resist. The 3 awakened saint souls in the prison-suppressing cauldron had also lost their strength due to the continuous battle and had fallen into a deep slumber. If a heavenly immortal expert really attacked him, he would definitely die. Su Zimo looked at the newcomer, and his expression changed. This cultivator was actually the patriarch of the astral sect, Xingyu. In the blink of an eye, Xingyu arrived. When he saw Su Zimo, he was slightly stunned. When he saw the fire next to him, he was even more shocked. At this moment, the raging fire had yet to incinerate all the corpses. Their figures could still be vaguely identified. Xingyu could easily see that 13 executioner guards had died here, as well as Zhou Zhuxian, Lin Ming, and Xie Tianfeng. "You're Su Zimo, the one wanted by the Dajin Celestial Nation?" Xingyu saw Su Zimo and quickly recognized him. He frowned and asked, "Why are you here? Where's my sec Zimo Ling?" Su Zimo did not say anything. He was puzzled as well. Logically speaking, Xingyu should have attacked him immediately after recognizing his identity. Why was he asking about Mo Ling's whereabouts? Xingyu's gaze circled Su Zimo a few times and discovered something strange. Even though Su Zimo's appearance had changed, the clothes he was wearing were still the same as before Mo Ling left the sect. Even the astral sect badge on Su Zimo's waist was not removed and thrown away in time. "Su Zimo, Mo Ling, you're Mo Ling?" The thought flashed through Xingyu's mind as he suddenly asked. Even though this speculation was truly shocking, Xingyu recalled something. When Mo Ling joined the sect, it was when the Dajin Celestial Nation was hunting down Su Zimo. After Mo Ling joined the sect, he did not appear and remained in seclusion. That was truly strange. Furthermore, there was the scene before him. Mo Ling left Astral Sect with many executioner guards. Now that he was gone, Su Zimo was standing here wearing Mo Ling's clothes. "Answer me." Xingyu suddenly released his massive spirit consciousness and locked onto Su Zimo. With a sharp expression, he asked slowly, "Are you Mo Ling or not?" Su Zimo remained silent, and his entire body tensed up. All of a sudden, Xingyu waved his sleeves and scattered starlight that enveloped Su Zimo. The starlight was way too strong, and any single one of them was enough to kill Su Zimo. However, Su Zimo had just received the legacy of the Supreme Mystic Spirit Big Dipper Sutra. When he was attacked by the starlight, the cultivation technique sensed it and circulated on its own. Whoosh! 2 star regions appeared above Su Zimo's head. Light Shaking and Sun Mizar were the main star regions with billions of stars revolving around them. Those two star regions were still far from the true Big Dipper star region. Even so, the two star regions hovered above Su Zimo's head and formed a gigantic phenomenon with billions of starlight sprinkling down. It was shocking enough. Su Zimo's body shone with resplendent starlight like a god beneath the stars, as his aura skyrocketed. Mystic Spirit Big Dipper Diagram. It's really you. Xingyu had a conflicted expression when he saw the two star regions appear. He did not continue attacking, and merely sighed gently before dispersing the surrounding starlight. The Mystic Spirit Big Dipper diagram in the skies dissipated as well. Su Zimo was confused. He could not sense any killing intent from Xingyu. In fact, he could not even sense any hostility. Right now, his life was worth 1,000,000 spirit essence stones. If he could be captured alive, his value would be even higher. However, Xingyu did not seem to have any intention of attacking him. Just now, Xingyu was merely probing to confirm Su Zimo's true identity. Senior. Now that things had come to this, there was no need for Su Zimo to hide anymore. I'm Mo Ling 2K Reading Network. Chapter 2102. Heis. Xingyu remained silent for a long time before finally sighing. Leave the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom as soon as possible. Senior, why are you? Su Zimo was a little confused and did not understand what Xingyu was thinking. The two of them did not have any relationship. If Xingyu captured him, he could exchange for a large amount of treasures. Even if he did not hand him over, he could interrogate him about the Supreme Mystic Spirit Big Dipper Sutra. Xingyu seemed to have seen through Su Zimo's doubts and said, "When I saw you being taken away by Commander Liu, I guessed that he was after the inheritance that you had just obtained. Although I'm the master of a sect, and do not wish for you to suffer such a calamity, I did not dare to offend the executioners." Xingyu did not hide his fear towards the executioners and the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. However, after I returned to my cave abode, I could not calm down, Xingyu said. After so many years, the inheritance of Astral Sect has finally appeared in this generation. Am I going to be snatched away by the executioners just like that? As the patriarch of Astral Sect, am I going to watch as the successor of my inheritance dies because of this? When she said those words, Xingyu laughed at herself. She said, I had originally come here with the intention of risking my old life to kill those executioner guards and rescue you. Never would I have imagined that those people would already be dead. Although Xingyu did not say it explicitly, one could imagine how difficult it was for him to make that decision. The moment he made a move against the executioners, it would be equivalent to facing a massive entity like the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. If you were just Su Zimo, I wouldn't let you off, Xingyu said. However, you're a Mo Ling who has accepted the inheritance of Astral Sect. I hope that this inheritance can regain its glory in your hands. Xingyu's tone was sincere, and there was a hint of anticipation in his eyes. Even in the upper realm, not everyone was evil and treacherous. They would use their strength to bully the weak. They were all insatiably greedy and cold-blooded. Xingyu knew that since the inheritance had chosen Su Zimo, it meant that Su Zimo was the most suitable candidate. Suddenly, Xingyu took out a talisman from his storage bag and handed it to Su Zimo. This is a major transference talisman. It can teleport you to a city at the borders of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, Seven Plume City. Su Zimo was secretly speechless. One had to know that the Dajin Celestial Nation had a vast territory. It had 16 counties and more than 1,000 cities. With Su Zimo's cultivation, even if he traveled day and night, it would take him several months to cross a single county, let alone the entire Dajin Immortal Nation. The value of this talisman could be seen at a glance. Once you tear this talisman and descend to the border, leaving Seven Feather City, you will have escaped the pursuit of the Great Jin Immortal Empire. Xingyu paused for a moment before she continued. However, leaving the Dajin Celestial Kingdom doesn't mean that it's safe. In Godly Clouds, the three great celestial countries only control half of the territory. The other half is mostly uninhabited. There are all kinds of powerful creatures living there. It's full of dangers and unknown things. Some spiritual lands are occupied by powerful rogue cultivators. Some mountain ranges are occupied by terrifying demonic beasts. Some blessed lands are governed by immortal sects. There are countless places like this. If you accidentally enter one of them, your life will be in danger at any time. Su Zimo pondered for a moment before he asked, after leaving the Dajin celestial nation, how can I leave the divine firmament celestial realm? Xingyu said, after leaving the city, head south. If there are no accidents with your cultivation, it might take you decades to cross half of the divine firmament continent and reach the jade firmament celestial realm. Decades, huh? Su Zimo frowned slightly. And this was only the most ideal time. According to what Xingyu said, crossing that ownerless land was occupied by various powers and countless powerful creatures. It was unknown how much danger they would have to go through. If there were any accidents and delays, it would take hundreds or even thousands of years. Is there no way to teleport? Su Zimo asked with a frown. Yes, Xingyu said. However, it's in the imperial cities of the three great celestial kingdoms, the four major immortal sects teleportation hall, or divine firmament city. Without a special identity, don't even think about entering the imperial cities of the three great celestial kingdoms, or the four major immortal sects. As for divine firmament city, it's the territory of the divine firmament celestial emperor. There are many powerful cultivators living in seclusion there. Even if you have any tricks up your sleeve, you'll definitely be exposed when you get there. Su Zimo shook his head. The teleportation formation was even more unrealistic. Where is the green firmament celestial realm? Su Zimo's heart stirred as he asked again. The Thunder Emperor had told him that the human emperor, Lin Zhan, was in the green firmament celestial realm and controlled a celestial kingdom. The green firmament celestial realm is even further away. Xingyu shook her head and said, to the south of the divine firmament celestial realm is the jade firmament celestial realm. Further south is the red firmament celestial realm, and further south is the green firmament celestial realm. There are still two celestial realms in between. It's even further away. Su Zimo shook his head. With his current abilities, there was no way he could reach the green firmament celestial realm. Xingyu thought for a while and suddenly said, actually, if you can join one of the four major immortal sects, you might be able to overcome this tribulation. The four major immortal sects? Su Zimo muttered softly. Back on the Dragon Abyss planet, he had met the cultivators of the four major immortal sects. The four major immortal sects of the divine firmament continent were the Mountain Sea Immortal Sect, the Imperial Wind Sect, the Heaven and Earth Academy, and the Flying Celestial Sect. Xingyu said in a low voice, in the divine firmament celestial realm, the four major immortal sects are the only forces that can contend with the three major celestial kingdoms. Although the four major immortal sects are just sects, they have a terrifying foundation and are definitely not weaker than a celestial kingdom. If I can join one of the four major immortal sects, will I be able to get rid of the threat of Duke Yuanzhua? Su Zimo asked again. Xingyu nodded and said, Duke Yuanzhua's status among the many dukes and princesses of the Dajin celestial kingdom fell greatly because of Feng Santian's incident more than 2,000 years ago. Now the Azure Cloud Princess and the county governor have changed. Although you're being hunted by him, as long as you leave the Dajin celestial kingdom and join one of the four major immortal sects, no matter how arrogant he is, he won't dare to go to the four major immortal sects to capture you. But, Xingyu wanted to say something. But what? Su Zimo asked. Xingyu hesitated and said, but with your current cultivation, I'm afraid it's not realistic for you to join one of the four major immortal sects. I think we should just forget about it. Why? Su Zimo frowned and asked, what are the requirements to join one of the four major immortal sects? Every 100 years, the four major immortal sects will hold an immortal sect selection in the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. The most talented and powerful Earth immortals in the Divine Cloud continent will gather. Xingyu said, the selection will last for a year. In the end, only 100 Earth immortals will be selected to join the four major immortal sects. Is there a restriction on cultivation level in the immortal sect selection? Su Zimo asked. No, as long as you're an Earth immortal, Xingyu said. But those who participate in the immortal sex selection are the top Earth immortals from all over the Divine Cloud continent. The lowest cultivation level is rank 7 Earth immortal. Those who stand out in the end are mostly rank 9 Earth immortals. Although you have the help of the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram, your cultivation level is still too low. Even if you participate in the immortal sex selection, you won't stand a chance. The competition in the immortal sex selection is too fierce and cruel. If you're not careful, your life will be in danger. Xingyu looked at the corpses of the executioners on the ground and instinctively thought that these people had died at the hands of the person who had been hunted down by the executioners. It never occurred to him that these people's deaths had something to do with Su Zimo. 2K Reading Network. Chapter 2103. Su Zimo did not intend to join the 4 major celestial sects. However, according to Xingyu, with his current cultivation level, it would take too long for him to leave the Divine Firmament Celestial Realm and head to the Jade Firmament Celestial Realm. The journey was long, and he did not know what kind of changes and dangers he would encounter. If he could join one of the 4 major celestial sects and gain their protection, it would be much easier for him to leave the Divine Firmament Celestial Realm. The 4 major celestial sects also had super teleportation arrays that could lead to other celestial realms. After wandering in the upper world for so many years, Su Zimo deeply felt that without the support of a powerful force, it would be difficult to establish a foothold in the upper world. Now, only the 4 major celestial sects could compete with the Dajin Celestial Kingdom. Moreover, even if he could reach the Jade Firmament Celestial Realm, it was not the best plan. This was because the entire journey was extremely dangerous, and the distant Jade Firmament Celestial Realm was also full of unknowns. Su Zimo's greatest threat in the upper world, King Yunyu, might even be in the Jade Firmament Celestial Realm. If that was the case, he would be walking into a trap if he entered the Jade Firmament Celestial Realm. Now that the 4 major celestial sects were selecting and recruiting disciples, it was a rare opportunity. Su Zimo decided to go to the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range to take a look. He asked, "Senior Xingyu, how do I get to the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range?" Xingyu frowned and pondered. She pinched her fingers and calculated. She shook her head and said, No, I calculated the time. The celestial sex selection has already started. More than half a year has passed." "Senior, just now, didn't you say that the celestial sex selection will last for a year before the final results are announced?" Su Zimo asked. "Yes." Xingyu nodded and said, "Even if you rush over now, I'm afraid you'll only make it in time. The celestial sex selection is about to end. How are you going to participate?" After a short pause, Xingyu said, "Of course, you can choose to hide and wait for the next celestial sex selection. This kind of selection is held once every 100 years. You don't have to rush to participate this time." As Xingyu said this, she took out a map scroll from her storage bag. The map was filled with dense black dots. If one's divine sense was immersed in it, these black dots would gradually expand, and names of places would appear. Xingyu passed the map to Su Zimo and said, "After you leave the Great Jin Celestial Empire, head southwest. You'll pass by the Sunset Immortal River, Nine Light Stream, Sky Thick Mountain Range and Cloud Dream Swamp. You'll reach the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range." Xingyu's explanation was simple. It was just a few names, but the journey in between was tens of thousands of li. Xingyu said, "The Coiling Dragon Mountain Range is majestic and majestic. It's in the Godly Clouds continent. As long as you're in the right direction, you'll definitely see it." "Thank you, Senior." Su Zimo put away the map and thanked him in a deep voice. "Go. Leave as soon as possible." Xingyu waved her hand and said, "I hope you can make the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram shine again in Godly Clouds continent." "Senior, take care." Su Zimo bowed. Xingyu nodded and turned to leave. Su Zimo took a deep breath and did not stay there. Qinglian's primordial spirit held the Sanyu Jade Rui and changed her appearance again. This time, Su Zimo turned into a sickly young man. He took out a white robe from his storage bag and put it on. Back when he was in Tianhuang continent, he had been cursed by the witch tribe, and his primordial spirit was severely injured. He had been in such a state. Therefore, Su Zimo would not reveal any flaws in his current appearance. Although the Sanyu Jade Rui's ability was not offensive, it was too important to him. Su Zimo did not walk far before taking out the teleportation talisman. He had suspected that there might be something wrong with the teleportation talisman. However, given Xingyu's cultivation level, there was really no need for her to go through so much trouble to deal with him. Su Zimo took a deep breath and tore the teleportation talisman apart. The shards of the talisman spun continuously, and a dark dimensional tunnel appeared in midair. Su Zimo walked in. When traveling through the dimensional tunnel, one would not be able to sense the flow of time or the weight of one's body. All of one's senses would be greatly weakened. An unknown period of time passed. In the span of a few breaths, Su Zimo's eyes lit up, and he felt his body turn light as he fell rapidly from midair. Hurriedly, he controlled his body and released his spirit consciousness, keeping his guard up. There was no danger in the surroundings, and there was no one around. He had already left the dimensional tunnel. In the distant horizons, he could vaguely make out a gigantic ancient city. Su Zimo sped in the direction of the ancient city. Before long, he could make out the words Seven Feather City, written on the ancient city. Seven Feather City was an ancient city at the southern border of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Indeed, the teleportation talisman had sent Su Zimo to the border of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. As long as he passed through this ancient city, he would leave the territory of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. At that time, with the help of the Sanbao Jade Scepter, he would be free. Su Zimo disguised himself as a sickly young cultivator. His face was yellow and his lips were pale. He did not encounter any obstacles when he entered Seven Feather City. When he left Seven Feather City, there were quite a few city guards who checked him multiple times and asked him a few questions. The ancient city at the border was different from other cities, as it was heavily guarded. Su Zimo had already prepared the answers and successfully left the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom without any mishap. After speeding for a while, Su Zimo stopped and turned around. He looked in the direction of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom with a cold gaze. After that, he followed the map and sped in the direction of the coiling Dragon Mountain Range. 13 executioners had died in the Sun Moon County, causing the county governor of the Sun Moon County to be furious. At the same time, Duke Yuanzhua, who was in the Sun Moon County, also received the news. He brought Commander Gu Xing of the executioners and a group of executioners to the location of the incident. At that time, Duke Yuanzhua was frightened out of his wits by the Crown Prince of King Jin. When the Crown Prince of King Jin ordered him to eliminate all of King Ye's forces in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, he did not dare to disobey. Due to Feng Santian's escape, the Crown Prince of Jin was furious and removed his authority in the Azure Cloud County. He also removed the position of True Immortal Mirror Moon as the county governor of the Azure Cloud County. All these years, other than chasing after Su Zimo's whereabouts, Duke Yuanzhua spent most of his time in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, searching for and eliminating King Ye's forces. With the Crown Prince of King Jin's warning, he did not dare to relax. The days of peace and comfort, where hundreds of people would respond to a single call, were long gone. Duke Yuanzhua was now exhausted from running for his life. Among the many dukes and princesses, his position was below average. More importantly, the true body that he had spent so much time and effort to condense was destroyed. His true body was at the critical moment of breaking through to the true self realm and was implicated. If he did not have a great opportunity, he might never be able to become a true immortal. One wrong step, and he fell from the clouds to the bottom of the valley. The series of events that happened after that, the Jade Talisman being stolen, and him being injured by the Crown Prince of King Jin, were all because of one person, Su Zimo. Chapter 2104. Sun Moon County. When Duke Yuanzhua arrived with Commander Gu Xing of the Executioner Heavenly Guards and a group of Executioner Earth Guards, there were already many cultivators surrounding the scene. Other than some Executioner Earth Guards and immortal soldiers of the Dajin Celestial Nation had sealed off the area. The Sun Moon County governor was also here. Greetings, Your Highness. When the Sun Moon County governor saw Duke Yuanzhua, he cupped his fists and greeted him. Although Duke Yuanzhua's status had declined over the years, and he had lost control of the Cyan Cloud County, he was still of King Jin's bloodline. The Sun Moon County governor did not dare to slight him, and maintained a minimum level of respect. Of course, Duke Yuanzhua could not command the Sun Moon County governor, even if he wanted to. What happened? Duke Yuanzhua entered the center, and looked at the traces left on the battlefield. He frowned and asked. On the battlefield, nothing could be seen anymore. Only piles of ashes were left. Among the ashes, there were a few pieces of black gold feather armor that were not completely incinerated. There were almost no valuable clues. 13 executioner Earth Guards were killed, including 3 commanders. The Sun Moon County governor said in a low voice. According to the information I received, these executioner Earth Guards were ordered by Princess Mingyao to hunt down a couple. However, these executioner Earth Guards were all killed here. At this moment, a beam of immortal light sped over from afar. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of them, emitting a powerful aura. It was a tall lady in a blue palace dress. Her face was fair, and she was beautiful. Her black hair was tied up in a flying fairy bun, and she had an extraordinary aura. Many of the cultivators present were stunned when they saw this woman. They were in a daze as if they had lost their souls. However, this lady was emitting a cold and dangerous aura that kept people away. Many cultivators regained their senses immediately. What are you looking at? Kneel down and greet Princess Mingyao. The Sun Moon County's county governor shouted sternly. His gaze swept across the many celestial soldiers around him. These Dajin celestial nation guards usually did not have the chance to see Zither Immortal Mingyao's face. Now that they saw her, they were deeply attracted to her beauty, and could not help themselves. Many of the executioner guards reacted at the first moment, and they all knelt on the ground and saluted. After being reminded by the Sun Moon County governor, most of the surrounding guards came to their senses. They hurriedly lowered their heads and knelt on the ground. There were still dozens of guards who remained motionless, looking at Meng Yao in a daze. Princess Meng Yao. This was Zither Immortal Meng Yao of the 4 fairies. Not to mention the sound of Fairy Meng Yao's zither. Just her appearance alone was enough to captivate them, and make them fall into a trance. The 4 fairies had been famous for many years. Each of them had a unique personality, but the 4 fairies were the prettiest in the godly cloud celestial realm, or even in the 9 clouds celestial realm. Otherwise, they wouldn't be qualified to be called the 4 great fairies. Qin Shuang, these guards under you, it's time to take care of them. Meng Yao slowly opened her mouth and said coldly, Princess Meng Yao is right. When we return this time, I will severely punish these guards and make them remember today's lesson. The Sun Moon County's county chief hurriedly said. Meng Yao said indifferently, there's no need to go back. Today, I will take care of these people for you. As soon as she finished speaking, Meng Yao stretched out her slender fingers and suddenly plucked in the void. Clang! Suddenly, the sound of a zither was heard in mid-air. The eyeballs of the dozens of guards exploded one after another, spewing out streams of blood. Ah! The dozens of guards let out miserable screams. From the beginning to the end, Meng Yao didn't even look at these people. She didn't even bother to look at them. Since you are the guards of the state of Jin, this is just a small punishment. I will cripple your eyes. Meng Yao's words were full of killing intent, but there seemed to be a kind of magic in them. Her voice was indescribably sweet and pleasant. The guards' eyes were blinded, and they were all in great pain. However, there was a strange smile on their faces, as if they were very satisfied and excited. To be able to see Fairy Meng Yao's face in this life, even if my eyes are blinded, it is worth it. To be able to hear Fairy Meng Yao speak to me, I have no regrets in this life. The guards only took one look at Meng Yao, and were conquered by her. Even if they were blinded, they didn't have any resentment. Hearing these words, Fairy Meng Yao wasn't angry. Instead, there was a trace of a smile in her beautiful eyes. She really liked the feeling of others submitting to her and groveling at her feet. Sister Meng Yao, long time no see. You are getting more and more beautiful. Duke Yuanzhua hurried forward and said with a smile. When I saw you just now, I didn't recognize you at first. I thought you were a fairy. Meng Yao was indeed worthy of these compliments. However, when it came from Duke Yuanzuo's mouth, it was more or less flattering. Even if Meng Yao could feel it, she wouldn't point it out. She really enjoyed the feeling of being praised and the moon surrounded by the stars. She had enough confidence. No matter how many compliments, no matter how big they were, she could accept them. Yuanzuo, long time no see. Princess Meng Yao nodded slightly. The two of them had the same father but different mothers, so they didn't have a deep relationship. However, no matter what, the blood of King Jin flowed in their bodies. Meng Yao also replied to Duke Yuanzuo, which was considered a greeting. What clues do you have? Meng Yao turned to look at the Sun Moon County governor and asked in a deep voice. This place was burned to ashes by a big fire. So far, we haven't found anything. The Sun Moon County governor shook his head. Although Princess Meng Yao didn't control any territory in the Dajin celestial nation, she was second only to King Jin's crown prince among the many children of King Jin. Not only was Princess Meng Yao a true disciple of the Flying Celestial sect, but she was also the Zither Fairy. The Zither Fairy's influence was so great that it was even greater than that of King Jin's crown prince. Therefore, Princess Meng Yao could order all the county governors of the Dajin celestial nation. Sister Meng Yao, let Gu Xing try using the blood guide secret technique. Duke Yuanzuo hurriedly stepped forward and suggested. Gu Xing didn't dare to hesitate. He quickly activated the secret technique and tried to condense the blood in the area to sense the direction. However, after a long time, Gu Xing dispersed the technique and shook his head with a bitter smile. No, I can't sense it. It seems to be blocked by some kind of force. Meng Yao pondered for a while and said, it must be because of those two treasures. The soul-hooking zither and the luopa flute were two lethal weapons from the ancient era. They could block the detection of the blood guide secret technique. Meng Yao sneered and thought to herself. This time, I will come out personally. I don't believe that I can't catch you two ants. With that thought, Meng Yao moved and sped off into the distance. Not long after, her voice was heard. Summon all the executioners in the Sun Moon County. Search for those two with all your might. Yes, madam. The Sun Moon County governor bowed and replied. Using an entire county's executioners to search for two Earth God Realm cultivators showed how important this matter was to Meng Yao. Duke Yuanzuo raised his eyebrows and looked at Gu Xing. He whispered, let's go. We can't interfere in this matter. Yes, Gu Xing replied. Chapter 2105. Su Zimo followed the map and headed towards the direction of the coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Along the way, he encountered some dangers. Fortunately, he was now a rank 6 Earth deity. With the help of the subduing Hell Cauldron and other powerful treasures, he was able to protect himself. Danger lurked everywhere as he traveled at full speed, and Su Zimo did not dare to be distracted in his cultivation. Although a large amount of Yuan Qi had settled in his body, because he had received the Supreme Profound Spirit Big Dipper Sutra, he did not have the opportunity to absorb it. Therefore, his cultivation base was still at level 6 of the Earth Immortal Realm. 2 months later, Su Zimo finally saw the coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Even without looking at the map, he could tell that the endless and majestic mountain range in front of him was the coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Xingyu was right. No one would be able to overlook this majestic mountain range. As he neared, the coiling Dragon Mountain Range on the map became clearer. It was a thick, curvy, dark line that stretched across the entire Divine Cloud continent and divided it into two. The coiling Dragon Mountain Range could no longer be measured by its length. The terrain of the coiling Dragon Mountain Range was complex and varied. Some areas were meandering like divine dragons. Some areas formed a circle like a divine dragon lying down. Su Zimo continued forward. Not long after, Su Zimo heard a commotion in front of him. On the mountain range there were many people. In the sky above the coiling Dragon Mountain Range, there were 4 huge auspicious clouds. There were hundreds of people standing on them, looking down. When he got close to the coiling Dragon Mountain Range, Su Zimo finally felt the grandeur of the immortal sect's selection. At the peak of the mountain range, there were many cultivators. At a glance, There were at least a few million cultivators. It was a hubbub of voices. These cultivators were of different cultivation bases. There were Xian immortals, earth deities, and heavenly immortals. Some of them were itinerant cultivators, while others were cultivators from sections. They were gathered together, looking down at the mountain range. From time to time, they would exclaim and cheer. Su Zimo flew up into the sky. Not long after, he arrived at the peak of the mountain and looked down. Below the mountain range, there was a huge water curtain that rose slightly and floated in mid-air. Images were reflected on the water screen. One could clearly see that some cultivators were fighting for their lives, some were walking alone, and some were trying their best to escape. This water screen was similar to a mirage. It was capable of reflecting the various situations in an area onto the water screen. Su Zimo looked around and came to the side of a Xian immortal. He coughed lightly. This Xian immortal was startled by this voice and turned around to look. "Let me ask you a few things." Su Zimo's expression was calm, and his tone was indifferent. "Exalted immortal, please speak." This Xian immortal didn't know Su Zimo's background. In addition, his cultivation level wasn't high, so he didn't dare to be negligent and quickly replied. "What are the rules of this immortal sex selection? Tell me about them." Su Zimo did not beat around the bush and asked directly. This Xian immortal was slightly startled, but he quickly reacted and said, "The immortal sex selection is actually a gathering of many earth immortals to fight against each other. This section of the Panlong mountain range is about to encircle each other and form a valley. I heard that the elites of the 4 major immortal sects once worked together and used this terrain to set up a sealing array. This water screen below can reflect the situation in the valley at any time." This Xian immortal pointed at the valley surrounded by the Panlong mountain range and explained. The rules of the 10 Extremes prison in Jule City were very likely to be similar to the immortal sex selection. However, the 10 Extremes prison was a killing mode. There was no other way out. The immortal sex selection at least gave the earth immortals who entered the battlefield a chance to live. As long as they knew how to give up and use the Panlong token at the critical moment, they wouldn't die. Su Zimo thought of something very important and suddenly asked, "How long until the immortal sex selection ends?" "Only a month left." The mystic immortal pointed at the valley and said, "There were more than 180,000 earth immortals. After half a year, there are only 1,000 left on the battlefield. It will end soon." "A month." Su Zimo looked down at the valley with a deep gaze and murmured softly, "There's enough time." Chapter 2106. In fact, Su Zimo was not in a hurry to participate in the immortal sex selection. As long as he calmed down and cultivated, absorbing and refining all the yuan qi in his body, he might even have a chance to break through to level 7 earth deity after a period of seclusion. By then, he would have a greater chance and advantage to participate in the immortal sex selection. However, he would have to wait another 100 years for the next immortal sex selection. 100 years might seem like a short period of time, but it was possible for many unpredictable changes to occur. Furthermore, for some unknown reason, Su Zimo felt an uneasiness in his heart. Perhaps it was the pressure from the Dajin immortal nation, or the threat from King Yunyu, or some other unimaginable danger. Su Zimo wanted to get out of this predicament as soon as possible. 1 month was a very short time for others. However, it was enough for him. More than 180,000 earth deities were participating in the immortal sex selection, which meant that there were 18 coiling dragon tokens in the valley. If Su Zimo wanted to win in the end, he would be able to enter the top 100 if he could get around 1,800 coiling dragon tokens. Ah, look, Qihong Countess won. Qihong Countess defeated another person and obtained quite a number of coiling dragon tokens. She should have more than 3,000 tokens now. Exclamations came from the side. Qihong Countess? Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. He was a little sensitive when he heard about Countess or Countess. Which Countess is Qihong from? Is she also participating in the immortal sex selection? Su Zimo asked softly. Qihong Countess is from the Yin-Yang immortal nation. The Xian immortal pointed at a young girl on the water screen with a hint of admiration in his eyes. The girl had a high ponytail, and was wearing a red outfit. She had a slim waist with a ribbon tied around her waist, and red cloud boots on her feet. She looked very heroic. There were dozens of blood-red flying swords circling around the girl. The sword chi was so sharp that no one dared to get close to her. The Xian immortal paused for a while before saying, "Over the years, some countess and countess from the various immortal nations would choose to participate in the immortal sex selection, hoping to join the 4 major immortal sects and learn some Taoist techniques that are different from those of their nations. Princess Meng Yao is such a cultivator. Of course, in Su Zimo's opinion, there must be another reason why the princes and princesses of the various celestial kingdoms chose to join the 4 major celestial sects. It was to use these princes and princesses as a bridge to establish contact with the 4 major immortal sects in order to avoid too much conflict. The top forces in the divine firmament celestial realm were too large and complicated. They would try their best to restrain themselves and avoid major conflicts. Of course, Su Zimo's confidence in the 4 major immortal sects increased after hearing this. Even princesses and princesses had no shortcuts to enter the 4 major immortal sects. They had to participate in the immortal sex selection. This point alone was enough to prove that the 4 major immortal sects were existences that could fight against the 3 major immortal kingdoms. Su Zimo's gaze shifted and landed on 2 camps, where there were many cultivators in neat rows and uniforms. These cultivators were disciplined and did not talk among themselves like other cultivators. It was obvious that they were the cultivators from the celestial kingdoms. One of the army's uniforms was mainly red. If he was not mistaken, it should be the Flaming Sun Celestial Kingdom's camp. There were at least tens of thousands of them. The mystic celestial followed Su Zimo's gaze and said with a smile, "Princess Chi Hong is here to participate in the immortal sex selection. The Flaming Sun Celestial Kingdom's army is also here to support her." Su Zimo nodded slightly and looked at the other camp. The army's uniforms were different from those of the Dajin Celestial Kingdom. If he was not mistaken, it should be the Zixian Celestial Kingdom of the 3 major immortal kingdoms. The mystic celestial said, "Other than Princess Chi Hong, one of the princes from the Zixian Celestial Kingdom is also very powerful and can be called a demon. He has killed many people in this valley and has yet to meet his match." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he asked, "Prince Yenting?" "No, no, no." The mystic celestial waved his hand and said, "Prince Yenting is too arrogant. He doesn't even want to participate in the immortal sex selection. He also doesn't want to join the 4 major immortal sects." An earth immortal next to him sighed and said, "Prince Yenting once said that with the sword in his hand, he could defeat all the disciples of the 4 major immortal sects at the same level." This was indeed Prince Yenting's style. Prince Yenting was also the most powerful opponent that Su Zimo had encountered in the same level as him since he had ascended. Su Zimo couldn't help but smile when he recalled the scene of him fighting with Prince Yenting. He said casually, "He's young, but he's quite arrogant." After he said that, the surrounding discussion suddenly quieted down. Many cultivators turned around and looked at Su Zimo with strange expressions. The earth immortal next to him saw that Su Zimo was a little confused, as if he really didn't know. He sighed and said, "About 500 years ago, Prince Yenting visited the 4 major immortal sects and challenged the earth immortals of the 4 major immortal sects. At that time, Prince Yenting was only a rank 7 earth immortal. He challenged 32 earth immortals of the 4 major immortal sects." The earth immortal paused for a while and said, "He won all 32 battles. He's only a rank 7 earth immortal, but he's already invincible in the earthly origin stage. How powerful is that?" Although Prince Yenting didn't participate in the earth roll contest, everyone knows that he's the first earth immortal. The surrounding cultivators had obviously heard of this before. Now that Prince Yenting was mentioned, they were all amazed. This matter was indeed very sensational at that time. However, Su Zimo spent most of his time in seclusion in the Stellaris sect and had almost no contact with outsiders. Naturally, he had not heard of this matter. The earth immortal said, "Prince Yenting is not boasting. He has the strength and qualifications to do so. I heard that Prince Yenting has been in countless battles since he was born. He has traveled the 9 heavens immortal realm and fought against countless geniuses. He has never lost a battle. What kind of battle record is that? Indeed. Su Zimo nodded slightly, even though Su Zimo was the victor of the battle in the emperor's tomb. However, his words were not perfunctory. After all, the environment in the emperor's tomb was special. Neither he nor Prince Yunting had exerted all of their strength. If the two of them were to fight again, it would be hard to tell who would win. Su Zimo suddenly thought of something and asked. Prince Yunting was already a rank 7 Earth Immortal 500 years ago. What's his cultivation level now? That's something no one knows. The Earth Immortal shook his head and said, I think he's already a rank 9 Earth Immortal. Su Zimo was speechless. He had Qinglian's real body and sufficient cultivation resources. His cultivation speed was already rare. He did not expect Yunting's cultivation speed to be even faster than his. There was no deep hatred between him and Yunting. On the contrary, Su Zimo had a good impression of Yunting. Although the two of them had clashed before and Yunting was arrogant and conceited, he had never bullied him or hit him when he was down. The scene back then was still fresh in Su Zimo's memory. When the two of them were fighting, Fang Xian suddenly attacked him. Yunting ignored Su Zimo's attack and decisively changed his target to kill Fang Xian on the spot. Su Zimo did not continue to attack Yunting. He also chose to attack Fang Xian. At that moment, the two of them formed a tacit understanding. Chapter 2107. Look, that's the Duke of Yunlei. The abstruse immortal pointed at a man on the screen who was surrounded by Thunder Emperors and said softly, Yunlei Commandery Prince has nearly 3,000 coiling dragon tokens. Someone beside him said, Speaking of which, the 3 great immortal kingdoms have sent their duke and princess to participate in the immortal sex selection, but the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom did not send anyone. I heard that a lot of things have happened in the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom. Is it about Feng Santian's escape? Not just that. Another person shook his head and said, There's also a couple who got 2 Dharma treasures, and even alerted the Zither Immortal Mengyao. There's also a guy called Su Zimo, who offended a duke of the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom, and is being hunted down. It's quite a big deal. I heard that the Great Jin Immortal Kingdom has been hunting down the cultivators of the Sundered Night Organization. It's said that the Sundered Night Organization suffered heavy losses and was almost wiped out. The surrounding cultivators discussed casually. For a gathering like this where hundreds of people gathered, news circulated the fastest, and there were many different kinds of news. Under Su Zimo's questioning, the Xian Immortal pointed out some Earth Immortal experts in the valley. Other than the Princess of Qi Hong and the Duke of Yunlei, these Earth Immortals had also received enough coiling dragon tokens and were extremely powerful. They would definitely enter the top 100. Su Zimo looked at the 4 huge auspicious clouds floating above the coiling dragon mountain range and asked, Those on the clouds should be the cultivators of the 4 immortal sects, right? The Xian Immortal said, The one on the far left is from the Flying Immortal sect. The person in charge of the Flying Immortal sect this time is the number 1 Sky Immortal Bai Hai. Sky Immortal Bai Hai was sitting on a chair, waving a folding fan in his hand. He had a smile on his face and looked relaxed as he looked at the water screen below and sipped his tea. There were a few other Sky Immortals sitting beside Sky Immortal Bai Hai, but their seats were obviously lower than Sky Immortal Bai Hai's. The remaining cultivators of the Flying Immortal sect were all Earth Immortals. Other than Sky Immortals, will there be any true Immortals from the 4 immortal sects? Su Zimo asked again. No. The Immortal shook his head and said, Let's put it this way. Even the last 100 winners of the immortal sects will only become outer sect disciples. Only Sky Immortals can become inner sect disciples. Only true Immortals can become true Immortals. I heard that the various celestial sects have over 100,000 heavenly Immortals as their inner disciples. However, there are only a few hundred true disciples. For something like the Immortal Sect General Election, how could it possibly alarm a true disciple? Moreover, there's no need for that. By immortals, by immortal, 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 IMS immortals, immortal, immortal, immortal experts. Even if he's not the strongest celestial immortal, He must be extremely strong and famous in Godly Cloud's continent. Su Zimo nodded. Continue with the situation of the other 3 immortal sects. That person said. Above the 2 auspicious clouds in the middle is the Mountain and Sea Immortal sect in Qingquan Academy. Mountain Sea Immortal Patriarch. His Taoist name is Tianyuan, and he's number 1 on the heaven roll. Su Zimo was speechless. That person was even more powerful. It was said that the heaven roll was a grand event held by the Divine Firmament Palace. It gathered all the immortals in the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm to compete for a place on the heaven roll. Number 1 on the heaven roll meant that Tianyuan was also the number 1 immortal in the Divine Firmament Immortal Realm. Su Zimo looked in the direction of the Mountain Sea Immortal sect. Back on the Dragon Abyss planet, he had a fierce conflict with true immortal Wufeng from the Imperial Wind Monastery, Moonlight Sword Immortal from the Heaven Roll Academy, and Zither Immortal Mengyao from the Flying Celestial sect. Although he was hiding in the Dragon Corpse, the 3 true immortals did not know his background. It was better to avoid it. Therefore, Su Zimo was more inclined to the Mountain Sea Immortal sect. This person from the Heaven Roll Academy, the mystic immortal paused for a moment and said, "This person is not very famous. His name is Yang Ruoxu. I heard that he is a rising star and has the strength to compete for the number 1 immortal in the Heaven Roll Academy." Yang Ruoxu was dressed in a long white robe. He was sitting upright on a bamboo chair. His body was straight, his skin was bronze, and his face was angular. His eyes were bright and full of vigor. He was looking at the water curtain below with a focused expression. The one on the far right is the Imperial Wind Monastery. Their leader is Heaven Immortal Qingfeng. It is said that he is a strong contender for the top 10 of the Heaven Roll next time. The Mystic Immortal quickly introduced the situation of the 4 major immortal sects. Su Zimo remembered it all. What can I do to participate in the immortal sect selection now? Su Zimo asked. Now. The Mystic Immortal was slightly stunned. He did not understand what Su Zimo meant. He said, "This immortal sect selection is about to end. You can only participate in the next one." The next immortal sect selection would take place in 100 years. Su Zimo did not want to wait any longer. He looked up at the 4 clouds floating in the sky and took a deep breath. He suddenly flew in the direction of the 4 major immortal sects. Other than the cultivators of the 4 major immortal sects, the cultivators of the 2 immortal kingdoms also had to watch the battle from the top of the mountain. Su Zimo soared into the air and arrived above the heads of the millions of cultivators, attracting many gazes. Even though he had become the center of attention, Su Zimo didn't care. He had the 3 Jade Rui scepter, so he could disguise himself as a skinny and weak young man. Others could not see through him. Besides, if he wanted to participate in the immortal sect selection, he would be noticed by the millions of cultivators sooner or later. Some cultivators of the 4 major immortal sects also noticed Su Zimo. "Who is it? What are you doing here?" A few earth-level deities of the immortal sects stood out and shouted. "Because something happened along the way, I was delayed on the road. Now, I would like to participate in the immortal sect's general election. I ask for your permission, exalted immortals." Stopping in his tracks, Su Zimo raised his head and cupped his fists. After he said that, the noisy Panlong mountain range fell into a short silence. Then waves of voices exploded, mixed with mockery and taunts. "Does he know what he is talking about? Haha, I'm dying of laughter. A rank 6 Earth-level deity wants to participate in the immortal sect selection. I'm already a rank 7 Earth-level deity, but I don't dare to participate. People should know their own limits. This man looks sickly. His face is yellow and his spirit is weak. I think I can kill him with one blow." Another rank 6 Earth-level deity said proudly. The mystic deity who had talked to Su Zimo earlier was also shocked. Some of the Earth-level deities around him shook their heads. "I just realized that this man is not normal. He said that Duke Yenting is arrogant. I think he is delirious and talking nonsense." Many cultivators were watching the battle. When this happened, it attracted the attention of all the cultivators and made them laugh. The people in charge of the 4 immortal sects, such as Tian Yuan and Yang Ruoxu, merely glanced at Su Zimo indifferently before retracting their gazes. A rank 6 Earth-level deity, was not enough to attract their attention. Are you trying to cause trouble? A rank 8 Earth-level deity from Qianquan Academy stepped out and looked at Su Zimo coldly. Or you are provoking the 4 major immortal sects. Based on this crime, this rank 8 Earth-level deity could kill Su Zimo in front of everyone. Whoa. Many cultivators could hear the murderous intent in this man's words. They could smell blood and started to cheer. Chapter 2108. Lu Wenbin. Yang Ruoxu from Qianquan Academy said, "Just chase him away. There's no need to take his life." The level 8 Earth immortal named Lu Wenbin hurriedly bowed and acknowledged. "Why aren't you leaving?" Lu Wenbin turned to look at Su Zimo and scolded him coldly. Su Zimo said in a low voice, "I'm not here to cause trouble or provoke you. I just want to participate in the celestial sex selection." Ha 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 ha. Another wave of laughter came from the mountain below. Humph. Lu Wenbin's face darkened. He immediately released his spiritual sense to suppress Su Zimo. He said coldly, "Get down." Lu Wenbin's spiritual sense was not very aggressive, and he did not use his full strength. He just wanted to make Chun Fan suffer a little and make a fool of himself in front of everyone. Although he only released the spiritual sense of a level 6 Earth origin stage cultivator. As a disciple of Qianquan Academy, the spiritual sense cultivation method he cultivated was very famous. His spiritual sense was naturally purer than other cultivators. It was as if he could see the sickly young man falling from the sky and crashing into the mountain range in a sorry state. However, Su Zimo did not dodge the spiritual sense. He stood in the air and did not move at all. It was as if he was not affected at all. This scene caused Lu Wenbin to feel extremely embarrassed, causing him to feel even more furious. Even the laughter from below was harsh to his ears. It was as if someone was mocking him for not being able to handle a level 6 Earth deity. "Get down!" Lu Wenbin yelled again. This time, he did not show any mercy. He released all the spiritual sense of a level 8 Earth deity, trying to knock Su Zimo down from the sky. Su Zimo's expression did not change. His body swayed slightly, but he still stood in the air. He looked up at the direction of the 4 major celestial sects with a determined gaze. Oh! This time, it attracted the attention of the other cultivators from the 4 major celestial sects. To be able to withstand the spiritual sense of a level 8 Earth deity, it meant that this level 6 Earth deity's primordial spirit was not weak. It was at least level 8 Earth deity. It was rare for a level 6 Earth origin stage primordial spirit to reach level 8 Earth origin stage. The laughter in the coiling dragon mountain range gradually died down. The scene before them was somewhat beyond their expectations. The scene that they were anticipating did not appear. This guy seems to be quite strong. Hee, what's the big deal? The level 8 Earthen Immortal from Cosmos Academy did not even attack. All he did was release a strand of his divine sense. If I really attacked him, he would have been crippled long ago. To be's to be, is. Many cultivators curled their lips and shook their heads in disdain. Wenbin S. He had attacked twice but failed to chase Su Zimo down. At that moment he felt his face burning. Not only did he embarrass himself, but it might also affect the Qianquan Academy. He could not afford to lose face if the disciples of the Qianquan Academy could not even defeat an ordinary level 6 Earth deity. Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for not giving you a chance. Lu Wenbin slapped his storage bag, and a flying sword flew into the sky. It turned into a ray of light and circled around him. I think this guy is interesting. Why don't we ask him to come over, and we can ask him? Bai Hai from the Flying Celestial Sect said with a smile as he waved his fan gently. It seems like he's tired of the Celestial Sect selection. Let him come. Qing Feng from the Imperial Wind Monastery smirked as a hint of mockery flashed in his eyes. Lu Wenbin was stunned. Although he was a disciple of the Qianquan Academy, he could not do anything now that 2 celestial immortals were here. He turned to look at his senior brother, Yang Ruoxu. Yang Ruoxu did not say a word. Lu Wenbin had no choice but to glare at Su Zimo and return to the formation. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and continued to rise to the sky. He came to the front of the four celestial sex formation and thanked Bai Hai and the others. This time, all the cultivators of the four celestial sects had their eyes on Su Zimo. Even the four celestial immortals, Bai Hai, Tian Yuan, Yang Ruoxu and Qing Feng, were looking at Su Zimo. It was an unimaginable pressure. If it was someone else facing the four celestial sects and the four celestial immortals, who had been famous for many years, and whose cultivation level was much higher than his, he would definitely feel uneasy. The gazes of the four celestial immortals were like thorns on his body. It was normal for him to be panicking and sweating profusely. However, Su Zimo stood in front of the four celestial sex formation with a calm expression. He did not look guilty at all when he met the gazes of the four celestial immortals. Putting everything else aside, just his courage alone was enough to surpass ordinary people. Tian Yuan nodded slightly. There was a hint of approval in his deep eyes. Although Bai Hai, Yang Ruoxu, and Qing Feng did not say anything, they praised him in their hearts. The immortal sex selection had been going on for so long. There were fewer and fewer cultivators in the valley. There were only a little more than 1,000 left. The frequency of the battles had also gradually decreased. The attention of many cultivators fell on Su Zimo. It could be said that he was the center of attention. Everyone wanted to see what this seemingly weak young man wanted to do. You want to participate in the immortal sex selection? Bai Hai waved his folding fan and asked with a smile. Do you know what cultivation level the cultivators who participate in the immortal sex selection are at? My cultivation level is not too high, but my methods are not weak. Su Zimo said. Arrogant. You really don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Many cultivators snorted. To others, Su Zimo's words sounded like he was blowing his own trumpet. But in fact, he was already being humble. Do you know that there is only a month left until the immortal sex selection? The number of people is decreasing. It will also be harder for you to get enough coiling dragon tokens. Tian Yuan asked. Su Zimo said, You are right, exalted immortal. But the less time there is, the fewer people there are. At the same time, it also means that there are more coiling dragon tokens in the storage bags of the remaining cultivators. If you are lucky, you might be able to get enough coiling dragon tokens after defeating a dozen or so people. The coiling dragon tokens that were originally worth 180,000 were now in the possession of 1,000 or so people. Some Earth Immortal experts might have hundreds or even thousands of coiling dragon tokens in their storage bags. If you defeated them, you could naturally take over all of their coiling dragon tokens. Yang Ruoxu spoke abruptly. You're right. But have you thought about the fact that these remaining 1,000 plus earthly immortal realm experts have experienced over 10 months of bloody battles in order to persist until now? There are indeed a lot of coiling dragon tokens in their storage bags. But these people are not to be trifled with. Yang Ruoxu was right. There were not many 7th level Earth Immortals left in the valley. Almost all of them were 8th level and 9th level Earth Immortals. As time passed, the remaining Earth Immortals in the valley would become stronger and more terrifying. Yang Ruoxu said, You are young. To be able to cultivate to this level, you must be quite talented. Why don't you participate in the immortal sex selection in 100 years? You will have a better chance. 2K ReaderNet. Chapter 2109. Su Zimo could tell that Yang Ruoxu was reminding him out of goodwill. If there weren't so many pressures and threats, Su Zimo wouldn't be in a hurry to participate in this immortal sex selection. However, he was different from others. After waiting for 100 years, who knew what kind of changes would occur during this period? Su Zimo was silent for a moment before cupping his fists. I still wish to participate in this immortal sex selection. Exalted immortals, please allow me. Humph. In the crowd, Lu Wenbin sneered and muttered, You don't know what's good for you. Suddenly, Heaven Immortal Green Peak said, It's not impossible to participate in the immortal sex selection midway. However, there's a condition. What condition? Su Zimo asked. Heaven Immortal Green Peak said slowly, You can't bring the coiling dragon token in. Every cultivator participating in the immortal sex selection had a coiling dragon token that could save their lives at critical moments. However, after half a year, there were still 20 to 30,000 cultivators who died. There were even more cultivators who were severely injured and had their bodies destroyed. Many cultivators died before they could even bring out their coiling dragon tokens, or were killed by attacks that came out of nowhere. The competition in the immortal sex selection wasn't over. Instead, it was filled with blood and slaughter. If he can't bring the coiling dragon token into the valley, it means that he has no means of saving his life. That's not necessarily true. He can defeat others and take away their coiling dragon tokens. Haha, the remaining people are all ruthless. How can it be so easy to take away their tokens? If he's unlucky and lands beside some ruthless person when he enters the valley, he'll definitely die. After Heaven Immortal Green Peak said that, a commotion broke out in the crowd. Heaven Immortal by High waved his folding fan and said leisurely, "That's a good suggestion. If he participates in the immortal sex selection midway, he'll have to be different from others and bear greater risks. That's the only way to be fair." Although Heaven Yuan and Yang Ruoxu didn't express their opinions, they tacitly agreed to it. Participating in the immortal sex selection midway was a violation of the rules. If you break the rules, you have to bear unpredictable risks. No problem, Su Zimo said. Is he crazy? He dares to agree to that. I think he hasn't experienced the bloodiness of the immortal sex selection and doesn't know how terrifying it is. He truly doesn't know the immensity of heaven. Tian Yuan and Yang Ruoxu also frowned slightly. Just now, the two of them had tacitly agreed. There was another reason, which was that they hoped that Su Zimo would back off and come again next time. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo agreed without much hesitation. All right. Heavenly Immortal by High closed his fan and praised loudly. Bold, I like it. Celestial Immortal Azure Peak revealed a hint of interest as well. Now he had seen these people in the valley for more than half a year, and he was already a little tired of them. It just so happened that someone who wasn't afraid of death came out and threw him into this valley. Who knew what kind of ripples it would cause? At this moment, no one had realized it. Throwing Su Zimo into the valley did not stir up any ripples, but rather raging waves. The subsequent development of this matter was so great that it exceeded everyone's expectations. Celestial Immortal Azure Peak stood up, then said in a low voice, "If you are ready, I'll send you into the valley." "Thank you." Su Zimo nodded. Celestial Immortal Azure Peak waved his sleeves, and a massive surge of essence chi enveloped Su Zimo's body, causing him to land on a water screen rapidly, causing ripples. When Tian Yuan and Yang Ruoxu saw that, they frowned and turned to look at Celestial Immortal Azure Peak beside them. Others might not be able to tell, but the two of them could tell that Celestial Immortal Azure Peak was clearly up to no good when he chose that landing spot for Su Zimo. Yang Ruoxu scoffed coldly. "Azure Peak, what's the difference between that move of yours and killing him directly?" "Haha." Azure Peak roared with laughter. "That's not necessarily the case. I can tell that this lad is more courageous than others. I'm sure he has other outstanding aspects as well. That's what makes things interesting." Celestial Immortal by High waved his fan and said with a smile. The hundreds of cultivators on Coiling Dragon Mountain Range stared at Su Zimo's landing spot and gradually figured it out. Where did he land? How long he can live depends on where he lands. If he lands in a deserted area, he might be able to last for a couple of days. However, if he lands beside some ruthless person, look, he seems to have landed in. He landed in a crowd. The cultivators in the mountain range exclaimed. It's Lai Feng's group. They're the only ones left in the valley that have more than 100 people, right? That should be the case. There are less than 10 people left in the remaining teams. That man is finished. He won't even have a chance to escape after landing in the midst of Lai Feng's group. As the immortal sex selection progressed, the remaining cultivators in the valley would often choose to join forces with others and form teams to try their best to last until the end. The reason why Lai Feng's group was able to last until now was not only because of the strength of their leader Lai Feng, but also because they were smart. If they were to encounter truly top-tier experts, such as the Scarlet Rainbow Infanta or Yunlei County King, they would avoid fighting even if they had the advantage in numbers. Under Lai Feng's lead, The group would seek out cultivators that they were confident of taking down. Some cultivators who were left alone, or were not strong as a whole, would be mercilessly killed by Lai Feng's group. The cultivators who were watching the battle on the mountain range all said that Lai Feng was as cunning as a fox and as cruel as a wolf. Su Zimo was only a level 6 Earth Immortal. It was easy to imagine what would happen to him once he was surrounded by this group. In the Coiling Dragon Valley, Lai Feng led a group of more than 100 cultivators to rest on a mountain peak. From this position, they could have a good vantage point and observe the movements in all directions. If they were to encounter a strong enemy that they could not afford to offend, they could retreat at any time. Just then the water curtain in the sky shook. Following that, a light blue figure fell rapidly from the sky. Someone else is coming. The cultivators who were scattered all over the mountain peak looked up. Lai Feng squinted his eyes and spread out his divine sense to scan the person. Level 6 Earth Origin Stage. Hee. Lai Feng grinned and shouted, "Brothers, there's meat to eat." The cultivators in the valley did not know that Su Zimo did not have the Coiling Dragon token with him. Lai Feng's group would not let a lone cultivator, a level 6 Earth Immortal, go. Many cultivators stood up and looked at the figure in the sky with ferocious eyes. It was as if they were going to skin Su Zimo alive. Su Zimo looked down from midair and naturally caught sight of Lai Feng and the others. However, after he passed through the water curtain, a layer of light blue light enveloped his body. He could not control his body and could only let himself fall on the mountain peak. He was surrounded by a pack of wolves. The moment Su Zimo's feet touched the ground, the light blue barrier around his body dissipated silently and turned into nothingness. The battle was about to begin. 2K Reader Network. Chapter 2110. Seeing that someone was about to make a move, Lai Feng sat on a rock and waved his hand. "Don't worry, he can't run away. Let me ask him a few questions first." With a single move of his spirit consciousness, Su Zimo scouted out the situation around him. There were more than 100 Earth Immortals, and more than half of them were ranked 9 Earth Immortals. Of course he could fight, but there was no need. He was now a rank 6 Earth Immortal. If he fought with this group, he would definitely expose many of his trump cards. He only needed to get enough Coiling Dragon tokens to participate in the Immortal Sex selection. With millions of cultivators watching, he didn't want to expose too much. Moreover, he had just arrived and was unfamiliar with the surroundings. There was no need for him to fight with this group of people. "You're a rank 6 Earth Immortal, and you're here to participate in the Immortal Sex selection?" Lai Feng glanced at Su Zimo and raised his eyebrows. "Yes," Su Zimo said, "but I don't have a Coiling Dragon token." "No Coiling Dragon token? Who would believe that? You want to bluff your way out of this?" The surrounding cultivators laughed, looking relaxed. Lai Feng frowned and asked again, "The Immortal Sex selection is about to end. Why are you only here now?" "Because I came in halfway. That's why I don't have a Coiling Dragon token." Su Zimo didn't hide anything and spoke the truth. Lai Feng sneered with a look of disdain. Of course, he didn't believe Su Zimo's words. He was about to wave his hand to signal the surrounding cultivators to attack. Su Zimo's eyes lit up, and he suddenly stomped his foot. Boom! In an instant, the earth shook and the mountain shook. The entire mountain shook slightly at this moment. Countless rocks on the mountain rolled down, and dust flew everywhere. The cultivators on the mountain peak were caught off guard. They all staggered and jumped in fright. In that instant, Su Zimo moved and rushed out of the encirclement at an astonishing speed. These cultivators saw that Su Zimo was only a rank 6 Earth Immortal, and naturally looked down on him. They didn't think that he could escape at all. Therefore, everyone's formation was somewhat scattered. The mountain peak shook violently, and everyone's positions became much more scattered. Su Zimo seized the opportunity and rushed through the encirclement of more than 10 people, speeding away. "Stop him!" Lai Feng roared in anger. The surrounding cultivators instantly reacted. One after another, they brought out various magic treasures to block Su Zimo's path. Naturally, none of the remaining cultivators in the valley were easy to deal with. Some of them unleashed secret movement techniques, some took out magic treasures, and some activated immortal spells. All of them displayed their abilities. Although Su Zimo rushed out of the first layer of encirclement, he was soon blocked by the cultivators who rushed over from the side. There were obstructions in front and pursuers behind. In midair, there were still many magical treasures descending. Seeing that Su Zimo had no way out, his figure flashed, and he actually disappeared from where he stood. When he reappeared, he was already outside the encirclement. All his magical powers and magical treasures missed. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Fufu, that person's reaction is rather fast. However, it's useless. He still can't escape. The difference in cultivation realm and numbers is too great. It won't be that easy for him to break out of the encirclement. Where did he go? As many cultivators were discussing, they realized that Su Zimo had suddenly disappeared. Look, he's over there. He seems to have escaped. What happened just now? A commotion broke out in the crowd. Above the mountain range, on the 4 auspicious clouds. When they saw Su Zimo's movement technique in the valley, the eyes of Heaven Immortal by High, Heaven Immortal Yang Ruoxu, and Heaven Immortal Green Peak lit up. That movement technique is not bad. Although it can't compare to teleportation, it's similar to displacement. Heaven Immortal nodded gently. Heaven Immortal Green Peak shook his head. It can only catch the enemy by surprise. If the other party is prepared, that movement technique won't be of much use. Heaven Immortal by High waved his folding fan and said leisurely, "As far as I know, Lai Feng always has a backup plan wherever he goes. The real danger is yet to come." Yang Ruoxu said, "No matter what, from this person's performance so far, whether it's his reaction, attack or judgment, they're all very good. If it were anyone else, they might not even be able to break out of the first layer of encirclement after being surrounded by Lai Feng's team." In the Coiling Dragon Valley, after Su Zimo broke out of the encirclement, he sped forward with all his might. He immediately unleashed his golden light, ethereal wings, heavenly feet and many other magical powers and secret techniques. There were even arcs of lightning circling around the ethereal wings. As he flapped them, the power of wind and thunder could be felt. This was the wind and thunder wings of the Void Thunder Manual. Although Su Zimo was only a rank 6 Earth Immortal, with so many secret techniques and magical powers, his speed had increased to an extremely terrifying level. He could travel 1,000 miles in an instant. Those who were chasing after him were all rank 8 and rank 9 Earth Immortals. However, the distance between them and Su Zimo was gradually increasing. Even Lai Feng and the others, who were the fastest, could only temporarily keep up with Su Zimo. They were not left behind. Lai Feng stared at Su Zimo's back with a cold expression. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Suddenly, he performed a spell and activated his divine sense. At the same time, Su Zimo, who was sprinting, suddenly felt a sense of danger. He stopped abruptly and changed his direction, sprinting in the other direction. Just as he was about to pass by, a giant net suddenly rose from the ground. It was entwined with spikes that shone with a dim light. Obviously, it was smeared with poison. If Su Zimo had not changed his direction, he would have been caught by this poisonous net. Now that Su Zimo had changed his direction, the poisonous net immediately missed him. Lai Feng frowned and snorted coldly. However, he did not stop and continued chasing. As Su Zimo was sprinting, his heart skipped a beat. Without warning, he changed his direction again and slammed into a towering ancient tree beside him. Bam! The towering ancient tree was snapped by Su Zimo. The many cultivators who were watching from outside the valley did not know what Su Zimo was doing. To them, such an action was completely superfluous. Instead, it would slow him down. However, they soon realized that something was amiss. After the towering ancient tree was snapped, a figure was sent flying along with it. He spat out blood in midair and fell into the ground in the distance. His breathing was weak, and he looked dispirited. This was also a trump card that Lai Feng had set up. The assassin was lying in ambush nearby, and was one with the towering ancient tree. No one could detect him at all. However, before the assassin could make a move, Su Zimo sent him flying. Although it seemed like a simple collision, all the bones in the assassin's body were shattered by Su Zimo. When the assassin saw Su Zimo chasing after him, he was scared out of his wits. Hurriedly, He summoned the coiling dragon badge and was sucked away by a vortex, leaving behind a coiling dragon badge. Without stopping, Su Zimo picked up the coiling dragon badge and continued sprinting. Before long, he arrived at the foot of the mountain and left Lai Feng and the others behind. Chapter 21:11. Heavens, that person's movement technique is so fast. He escaped just like that. It's not that easy. The exhaustion of releasing so many divine powers and secret skills is unimaginable. If we continue chasing, that person's essence chi will be exhausted and he'll die. This time round, the hundreds of cultivators on the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range were attracted by the scene in the valley. Out of sympathy for the weak, many cultivators were secretly nervous and worried for Su Zimo. In midair, Tianyuan shook his head. This won't do. This region is filled with bushes, and he can't unleash his speed. There's no way he can shake off the pursuit of Lai Feng and the others completely. Right then, Su Zimo, who was in the valley, suddenly transformed into a tiny ant after making a turn at the foot of a mountain, crawling slowly between the cracks of the rocks. 72 transformations? Yang Ruoxu frowned slightly and murmured softly. That was a risky choice. If he used the 72 transformations and transformed into a plant or insect, he could naturally hide his tracks. However, it would also mean that he would lose the burst of speed from before. If he transformed into an ant, he would have to crawl on the ground like an ant. Once he was seen through, there would be no way out, and he would fall into danger once more. Before long, Lai Feng and the others arrived at this place. However, they realized that they had already lost track of Su Zimo completely. What's going on? Someone asked. Lai Feng frowned and said in a deep voice, there's no way he could have escaped so quickly. Search carefully and see if he's hiding nearby. Everyone released their spirit consciousnesses hurriedly and searched the vicinity carefully, not missing any birds, beasts, plants, or insects. However, none of them discovered Su Zimo's whereabouts. During this period of time, some cultivators' spirit consciousnesses swept past the ant Su Zimo transformed into, but they did not discover anything unusual. Under normal circumstances, if Su Zimo used the 72 transformations, even though he transformed into an ant, there would be traces of the divine power and aura. There would definitely be flaws. However, Su Zimo was using the triple gem Jade Rui right now. That transformation could be considered as deceiving everyone. After staying there for a long time, over 100 cultivators caught up to them. However, Lai Feng and the others were still unable to find Su Zimo. Leader Lai Feng, I think this person has already fled far away. Someone said. Lai Feng cursed. How unlucky. Where did this brat come from? I was too careless. If I see him again, I won't let him go. What do we do now? Another person asked. Let's leave this place first. Lai Feng looked into the distance and seemed to be a bit fearful. He waved his hand and led the 100 or so cultivators away. The forest quickly returned to normal. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. Millions of cultivators stared at this scene with their mouths agape. Just as Lai Feng and the others were searching the area, everyone saw clearly through the water screen that the ant Su Zimo had conjured was not far from Lai Feng and the others. However, the two sides passed each other just like that. Many cultivators let out sighs of relief. Not only did this outcome exceed the expectations of the millions of cultivators in the mountain range, but even the cultivators of the 4 major immortal sects in the air were greatly surprised. Attacking, breaking out of the encirclement, dodging the killing intent, knocking away the ambushing assassins, obtaining the coiling dragon order, and finally deceiving everyone. Thinking back to this series of actions, they still felt that it was quite amazing. This person who everyone thought would definitely die after landing on the ground, not only did not die, but also obtained a coiling dragon order. This also meant that as long as this person was careful, he could at least stay alive in the valley. Not bad. Tianyuan nodded slightly. Tianyuan was a man of few words. It was rare for him to receive such praise. Yang Ruoxu also nodded and said, putting everything else aside, just this reaction and judgment alone shows that this kid's talent is indeed extraordinary. Outside the valley, No one knew that what Su Zimo had shown was only the tip of the iceberg. Or rather, it was not even the tip of the iceberg. What a pity. Heaven Immortal Bai Hai shook his head and chuckled. This person is still going to be eliminated. What's wrong? Heaven Immortal Qing Feng asked. Look who's that. Heaven Immortal Bai Hai pointed at a figure not far from Su Zimo on the water screen. Everyone looked and saw that the figure was wearing a red outfit and red cloud boots. She was walking on a sword, and her ponytail was fluttering behind her head. She was one of the strongest Earth Immortals in this immortal sex selection, Princess Qi Hong. Yang Ruoxia shook his head slightly and said with a look of pity, this person's luck is not good. He just escaped the wolf pack and was targeted by Qi Hong. Heaven Immortal Bai Hai smiled. After half a year of observation, among the remaining Earth Immortals, Princess Qi Hong is ranked first in terms of speed. No matter how fast this person is, he can't beat Princess Qi Hong. In a while we will be able to watch a good game of cat and mouse. In the Coiling Dragon Valley, long after Lai Feng and the others left, Su Zimo's aunt transformed back into human form and returned to his sickly youth appearance. At the same time, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat, and he looked in another direction. There was a red light speeding towards him. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of him and stopped in midair, looking down at Su Zimo from above. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Just now, he also felt that someone was spying on him. If it was just one person, he wouldn't care, and was prepared to snatch the Coiling Dragon token. However, he didn't expect that person to be one of the strongest Earth Immortals in the valley, Princess Qi Hong. Princess Qi Hong was a level 9 Earth Immortal. Even if she couldn't beat Yun Ting, her talent and combat strength wouldn't be weak. Moreover, there was a gap of 3 levels between them. If he were to fight with her, it would be troublesome and reveal too much. Hee. Just as Su Zimo was deep in thought, the Red Rainbow Infanta suddenly laughed and said, You're really gutsy. You dare to participate in the immortal sex selection as a level 6 Earth Immortal? You even transformed into a little bug to escape the calamity. The scene from before had been witnessed by Qi Hong Commandery Princess. Lai Feng and the rest had left so quickly because they had sensed her presence. Give me the Coiling Dragon token and I won't hurt you. Princess Qi Hong chuckled and said, Look at how sick you are. If I were to make a move, you might lose your life. Su Zimo was expressionless as he cupped his fists and said, Forgive me for not being able to comply. After saying that, Su Zimo didn't say another word and turned to run. He once again released the ground-traversing golden light, heaven's feet, ethereal wings, wind and thunder wings, and many other mystic arts. His speed was pushed to the limit. Hee. Princess Qi Hong couldn't help but laugh and said, Interesting. You actually want to compete in speed with me. If I let you escape, it would be really strange. As she said that, Princess Qi Hong stepped on her flying sword and turned into a red light as she chased after Su Zimo. Princess Qi Hong already had enough Coiling Dragon tokens. After staying in the valley for more than half a year and killing here and there, she was already bored. Now there was a level 6 Earth Immortal who wanted to compete with her in terms of movement techniques. This made her feel very curious and interesting. Princess Qi Hong's lips curled into a smile. Her eyes flashed with ridicule as she decided to play with this level 6 Earth Immortal. Chapter 21:12. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and made use of many mystic skills and secret skills to sprint. Although he was only a level 6 Earth Immortal, he was still at level 6. However, with the augmentation of earth-traversing golden light, heavenly feet, ethereal wings and zephyr thunder wings, his explosive speed was something that most level 9 Earth Immortals could not catch up to. However, after running for a while, Su Zimo realized that he could not shake off Princess Qi Hong. Princess Qi Hong's figure was almost fused with the flying sword beneath her feet. Tearing through the air, one could only see a beam of light flash by at a shocking speed. Even the many cultivators watching from the outside lost track of Princess Qi Hong easily, if they were not careful. When Su Zimo realized that he could not shake off Princess Qi Hong in a short period of time, he used the same trick again. Channeling the San Yurui, he transformed into a mountain sparrow and blended into a flock of mountain sparrows, traversing through the forest. Princess Chi Hong, who was behind him, seemed to have vanished as well. All of a sudden, Su Zimo felt a sense of danger. A shadow loomed over his head as a gigantic goshawk swooped down. Its gaze was sharp as a sword as it glared at Su Zimo, who was in the flock of mountain sparrows, and swiped down viciously. The surrounding mountain sparrows scattered in fright. Humph! Knowing that he was exposed, Su Zimo reverted to his human form instantly, and continued speeding into the distance. Hee. Chuckling gently, Princess Chi Hong revealed herself, and chased after him once more. The two of them fought one after another. During this period of time, Su Zimo made use of the Sanyu Rui to transform into various beasts, plants and insects. However, none of them could escape from Princess Chi Hong's senses. Princess Chi Hong transformed as well, and hunted down Su Zimo, with all sorts of living beings. These changes were so complicated that it made one's eyes dazzled. Although the two of them did not clash head-on, to outsiders, it was even more exciting and dangerous. Many cultivators on the Coiling Dragon Mountain range widened their eyes and held their breaths. Even so, many cultivators still lost track of Su Zimo and Princess Chi Hong frequently. From time to time, shouts could be heard from the crowd, inquiring about the whereabouts of the two. Celestial Immortal Azure Peak clapped his hands and laughed. For this kid to encounter the Scarlet Rainbow Princess, he truly is unlucky. Princess Scarlet Rainbow is actually in the mood to play with this kid for so long. Celestial Immortal Whitesea waved his fan and laughed. Young Ruoxa shook his head slightly and said regretfully, "It's not easy for this kid to achieve such a movement technique as a level 6 Earth Immortal. It's just that the Red Rainbow Countess has her eyes on him, so." In the valley, Su Zimo realized that he had already been locked onto by the Red Rainbow Infanta's aura. Even if he had the Tri-Jade Rui, he wouldn't be able to escape from her entanglement. Su Zimo stopped in his tracks and turned around. Hee. The Red Rainbow Infanta revealed her true form, and looked at Su Zimo with a mischievous expression. She smiled and said, "6th level Earth Immortal, why aren't you running anymore? I wonder why your highness is chasing me?" Su Zimo frowned and said, "I've just arrived in this valley, and I only have one Coiling Dragon token with me. To your highness it's nothing." When Su Zimo arrived in this valley, he didn't do anything, and was chased by Lai Feng's team. Now that he was being targeted by the Red Rainbow Infanta, he couldn't help but reveal a hint of impatience as he ran. There wasn't much respect in his tone either. The Red Rainbow Infanta pouted slightly and said, "Who do you think you're talking to when you're just a level 6 Earth Immortal? Let me tell you, I can't be bothered with anyone else who begs me to chase after them." "Is that so? I'm really flattered," Su Zimo said indifferently. The Red Rainbow Infanta waved her hand magnanimously and said, "I originally wanted to play with you and snatch your Coiling Dragon token. However, along the way, I can tell that your talent is pretty good, and I'll bestow you with an opportunity. From today onwards, you will follow me and be my little attendant." "A little guard sounds better. Of course, I won't treat you unfairly. I will help you snatch enough Coiling Dragon tokens. After that, you will join the same immortal sect as me and have to listen to me. Do you understand?" The Red Rainbow Infanta talked to herself, and even instructed Su Zimo in a serious manner. Su Zimo resisted the urge to roll his eyes and said in a deep voice, "Your Highness thinks too highly of me. I'm eccentric and won't be disciplined. I can't be someone else's guard. Please find someone else who is more qualified." With that, Su Zimo left without looking back. Swoosh! The Red Rainbow Infanta's figure flashed and appeared in front of Su Zimo, blocking his path. "Hey, what's wrong with you?" the Red Rainbow Infanta said in a tempting tone. "Looking at your body, it seems like you haven't recovered from a serious illness. You must be lacking in tonics. When the time comes, I'll go to the palace to find some treasures for you to nourish your body. I'm sure you'll be plump and fair. Your Highness, if there's nothing else, don't block my path." Su Zimo's tone turned increasingly impatient. The Red Rainbow Infanta was a little angry when she saw that the soft approach didn't work. She gritted her small canine teeth and threatened, "You really don't know what's good for you. You can't beat me and you can't escape. Do you believe that I'll snatch your coiling dragon token away right now? Is that so? Su Zimo cupped his fist slightly and said indifferently, "Farewell, your highness. We'll meet again if fate allows it." With that said, Su Zimo once again released various mystic arts and sped into the distance. The Red Rainbow Infanta sneered. "Are you still thinking of escaping?" Before she finished her sentence, the Red Rainbow Infanta transformed into a beam of rainbow light and chased after Su Zimo. This time, she didn't want to continue playing around. She used all her strength, and the distance between the two of them gradually closed. All of a sudden, a pair of gigantic golden wings grew behind Su Zimo's back. They shone brightly and emanated a powerful aura of divine powers. Swoosh! The pair of golden wings flapped and stirred up a storm. Instantly, Su Zimo's speed increased by several times. In the blink of an eye, he vanished from the spot and transformed into a golden beam of light that tore through the air. The Great Rock Wings were one of Su Zimo's strongest trump cards, and he didn't want to reveal it. However, the Red Rainbow Infanta was truly difficult to deal with. Su Zimo didn't want to be entangled with her, and immediately released his innate divine powers to escape. The Red Rainbow Infanta was stunned, but she reacted quickly. She released all her blood chi and cultivation, and chased after him continuously. However, it didn't take long before she completely lost track of Su Zimo. She actually lost him? The Red Rainbow Infanta stood in midair in a daze. She had a blank expression, and found it difficult to accept the fact for a moment. What's going on? What just happened? Why did that guard suddenly go berserk? The Red Rainbow Infanta was confused. She originally thought that this was a game of cat and mouse. To think that the mouse suddenly grew wings and flew off without a trace. Even the crowd outside the valley was in an uproar, let alone the Red Rainbow Infanta, who was caught in the situation. Where did he go? Where did he go? I don't know. He disappeared in a flash. There were waves of voices. Even the eyes of the 4 heaven immortals in the skies lit up. That lad's movement technique is truly... Heaven Immortal by High wanted to say something but stopped. Such a movement technique could no longer be described as extraordinary. All right. Tian Yuan nodded his head slightly, his cold face revealing a trace of a smile. Yang Ruoxu revealed a look of admiration as well. Even Heaven Immortal Green Peak, who tossed Su Zimo into the crowd, had a change in attitude at that moment. Chapter 21:13. He's just good at running for his life. I don't think he's that good. Lu Wenbin from Qingkuan Academy muttered behind him. He had a short conflict with Su Zimo and lost face. Naturally, he didn't like Su Zimo. Yang Ruoxu shook his head and asked, "He's only at the 6th level of the Earth Origin Realm. He's even faster than Princess Qihong. Isn't that good? Do you think you can beat him?" Yang Ruoxu sounded like he was lecturing Lu Wenbin. He just wanted Lu Wenbin to be humble and not be arrogant. Lu Wenbin was indignant. His face turned red as he argued, "Senior brother, you can't say that. What's the use of his speed? The immortal sex selection isn't a test of speed. When I was chosen to enter the academy, I fought my way out with my own strength. Besides, the rules of the immortal sex selection are there. One needs to have enough coiling dragon tokens to become the final winner. Even if he can survive to the end with his speed, he can't enter the 4 immortal sects without the coiling dragon token." Celestial Immortal White Sea laughed softly. "Your junior apprentice brother's words are correct." Yang Ruoxu was silent. If the person in the valley couldn't get enough coiling dragon tokens, he couldn't break the rules of the immortal sex selection. In the valley, after a while, Princess Qihong gradually came to her senses. She stomped her feet and gritted her teeth. She said angrily, "Run. There's only 1 month left. I don't believe I can't catch you in this valley." Princess Qihong left after she finished speaking. On the other side, after Su Zimo broke free from Princess Qi Rainbow's entanglement, he changed directions a few times before gradually slowing down. His goal was to get the coiling dragon tokens. There was still 1 month left. He had enough time. It wasn't like the beginning of the immortal sex selection. Cultivators could be seen everywhere and battles were going on all the time. There were only a little over 1,000 people left. They might search for him for a long time, but still couldn't find him. Some cultivators who had obtained enough coiling dragon tokens would choose to hide in a secluded place out of caution. They would only show themselves when the time was up. This group of cultivators was even harder to find. Su Zimo wandered around the valley for nearly half a day before he finally met another cultivator. This was a lone cultivator, and he was at the 7th level of the Earth origin stage. This time, Su Zimo did not escape. The target he was looking for was precisely this kind of cultivator. He was alone, and his cultivation was not high. He could easily finish him off and take his coiling dragon token without exposing too many tricks up his sleeve. When the level 7 Earthen Immortal saw Su Zimo, he suddenly became extremely nervous, and his face was filled with wariness. However, after probing Su Zimo's cultivation base, he heaved a long sigh of relief. To think that I would be able to meet a level 6 Earthen Immortal here. I am truly lucky. The level 7 Earth Immortal looked at Su Zimo calmly, curled his lips and said, "Kid, hand over your coiling dragon token and I'll spare your life." "Alright, I'll spare your life," Su Zimo replied. Before he could finish his sentence, he had already rushed over. Just as the word life was uttered, Su Zimo had already arrived in front of the level 7 Earth Immortal. His speed was too fast. The two of them were very close. "You." The level 7 Earth Immortal was shocked. He could only open his mouth to say one word before the surging aura forced the rest of his words back down his throat. The level 7 Earth Immortal had a misconception in that instant. The one rushing over was not a level 6 Earth Immortal, but a terrifying ancient beast that was about to swallow him whole. The ancient ferocious beast stretched out its ferocious and sharp claws and clawed at him. At this point, it was already too late for him to form his immortal skill. He did not even have time to take out the Dharma treasures in his storage pouch. The level 7 Earth Immortal could only raise his arm to block the attack. Bang! Su Zimo's palm landed on the man's arms. Crack! Then, the sound of bones cracking could be heard. The man's arms were broken by Su Zimo's palm. The huge force broke through the arms and landed on the man's chest, sending him flying dozens of feet away. The level 7 Earth Immortal was sent flying. Su Zimo followed closely behind him like a shadow, glaring at him coldly. The man had wanted to take some pills to stabilize his injuries before escaping. But when he met Su Zimo's eyes, he was scared out of his wits. He quickly took out the coiling dragon token and activated the protective light shield on it. His entire body was pulled out of the valley by the vortex. After the man left, the storage pouch with the coiling dragon token fell into the valley and exploded. Dozens of coiling dragon tokens fell out and floated in the air. Su Zimo waved his sleeves and collected the dozens of coiling dragon tokens. His expression did not change as he turned and left. With his means, it would be easy for him to kill the man, just now, and take the coiling dragon token. However, the two had met by chance and had no enmity between them. Su Zimo was not one to kill indiscriminately. If he took someone's life for the immortal sex selection, he would be no different from those bloodthirsty people in the 10 Ultimates prison. He won just like that. Isn't it too easy? That level 7 Earth Immortal was too careless. Otherwise, he wouldn't have let that man take the initiative. You said that he was unlucky. He was surrounded by Lai Feng and the others, and then met Princess Chi Hong. Speaking of luck, he was lucky enough to meet one of the few remaining level 7 Earth Immortals in the valley. He only got dozens of coiling dragon tokens. He's still far from 1,800. As the time drew closer, the general candidates had been decided. There were not many variables. Therefore, many cultivators' attention fell on Su Zimo. They wanted to see how long this level 6 Earth Immortal could last. Soft. Tianyuan did not say much. He only said one word. But Heavenly Immortal by High, and the others understood what he meant. This softness referred to being soft-hearted, not being tough enough, not being decisive enough, not being ruthless enough. In the mortal world, this was a good quality. But in the world of cultivation, if one was soft-hearted, it would easily lead to unnecessary trouble. Yang Ruoxa shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. Leaving some leeway when doing things, and not killing all of them. At the very least, he wouldn't have made too many enemies and made too many strong enemies." Heavenly Immortal Qing Feng said, "Let's keep watching. As time goes by, it will be harder for him to get the Coiling Dragon token. There are fewer and fewer level 7 Earth Immortals left. He will have to face level 8 Earth Immortals, or even level 9 Earth Immortals." Yang Ruoxa suddenly asked, "Who is he?" Everyone was confused. Some cultivators asked around, but no one knew the man's name. At the moment, the people in the Coiling Dragon mountain range had not realized what kind of person the sickly youth they had thrown into the valley was. And soon, everyone's impression of this youth would be completely overturned. Chapter 2114. Sunmoon County, Sangyu City. The Duke of Yuanzhou did not leave after he came to investigate the death of the 13 executioners. Instead, he rested in Sangyu City. Although he was living in a duke's residence now, it was still a far cry from the one he had in Qingyuan City. There was nothing he could do about it. Ever since he met that person more than 2,000 years ago, the trajectory of his fate had begun to change. More accurately, he had fallen from the clouds to the bottom of the valley. Normally, if he obtained the Jade Talisman, he would have the chance to obtain a forbidden secret manual. If he cultivated this secret manual, he would definitely be able to enter the true self stage and become a perfected immortal. When that happened, his status among the dukes and princesses would rise again. He would be second only to the crown prince and the zither deity Mingyao. With this forbidden secret manual, his combat power would increase tremendously. He would even have the chance to become famous in the 9 heavens. But everything was ruined. It was ruined by a cultivator from the lower world called Su Zimo. He lost Qingyuan County, lost his father's favor, lost an avatar, lost his former status, and almost lost everything he once had. The Duke of Yuanzhou sat alone in the dark hall. His face was darker than the light around him. All these years he did not dare to stop. Once he calmed down, he would sink into endless pain and hatred. He would unconsciously think of the power and status he once had. He would think of the cultivator from the lower world that he hated to the core. For 2,000 years, the Duke of Yuanzhou had never given up on searching for Su Zimo's whereabouts. But what he could not understand was that Su Zimo seemed to have disappeared into thin air. There was no trace of him at all. Even with Feng Santian's cultivation, he had to pay a heavy price to escape from the Great Gene. Su Zimo had just become an Earth Immortal. How could he have left the Great Gene? The Duke of Yuanzhou had a feeling that Su Zimo was in the Great Gene and had never left. But if he was still in the Great Gene, where had he been hiding for the past 2,000 years? The executioners were everywhere in the Great Gene Celestial Nation. There was also the Great Jin's Wanted Order. How could he have hidden for 2,000 years? At this moment, there was a flurry of footsteps outside the hall. Your Highness." A merciless executioner hurriedly rushed in. "What is it?" Duke Yuanzhou frowned slightly. The executioner waved a letter in his hand and said, "Someone handed this letter to me and asked me to pass it to you, so that you can open it yourself." "Who is it?" Duke Yuanzhou asked. "No, I'm not sure." The executioner stammered. "Not sure?" Duke Yuanzhou's eyes turned cold. The executioner was so frightened that his entire body trembled. He hurriedly explained, "I don't know what happened either. I only felt my consciousness go blank for a moment, and then this letter appeared in my hand. After that, a voice rang out in my mind, telling me to hand the letter to Your Highness, and have Your Highness open it personally." The executioner's expression was still uncertain and bewildered when he spoke of this. And he was slightly bewildered. He said, "From the beginning until the end, this subordinate didn't see anyone. I asked a few more questions, yet there was no reply." "Is that all?" Duke Yuanzhou asked with a frown. "Ah." The executioner seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly added, "The voice also said that Your Highness would definitely be interested in the contents of the letter." "Oh." Duke Yuanzhou sneered in his heart and said, "Hand it over. I want to see who is deliberately mystifying things, and what is in this letter." The executioner held the letter with both hands and handed it over respectfully. Duke Yuanzhou took the letter. Just as he was about to tear off the seal, he suddenly had a thought. He handed it back to the executioner in front of him and said calmly, "Open it for me, but don't look at the contents. The executioner's heart turned cold. Naturally, he could tell that Duke Yuanzhua was worried that there was some danger hidden in the seal, and that was why he wanted him to try. Although he could tell Duke Yuanzhua's intentions, he did not dare to resist. He could only bite the bullet, wipe off the seal, and take out a page of the letter. Nothing unexpected happened throughout the entire process. The executioner was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat and heaved a sigh of relief. Duke Yuanzhua's expression did not change. He took the letter and opened it. After a casual glance, his expression changed drastically. The executioner secretly raised his head to take a look. He saw Duke Yuanzhua staring at the letter in his hand. His expression kept changing, and he did not know what was written in the letter. The executioner vaguely saw that there seemed to be a drawing on the back of the letter. However, most of it was covered by Duke Yuanzhua's palm, and he could not see it clearly. After a while, Duke Yuanzhua said slowly, "Ask Commander Guxing to come and see me." After a short pause, Duke Yuanzhua said again, "As soon as possible." "Yes, Duke Yuanzhua." The executioner quickly turned and left. Not long after, Commander Guxing of the Executioner Heavenly Guards arrived. He rushed into the main hall and asked in a low voice, "Your Highness, what happened?" "Take a look." Duke Yuanzhua passed the letter to Guxing. Guxing took a look, and his expression changed. He exclaimed, "Su Zimo. He has left Great Jin and is participating in the immortal sex selection at Panlong Mountain Range? Who wrote this letter? Is the source reliable?" Guxing quickly asked. "I'm not sure who wrote it." Duke Yuanzhua frowned and shook his head. "I can't tell if the source is reliable or not. However, the contents of the letter seem to be true, and there are many details that match up. The letter says that Su Zimo knows a transformation technique that allows him to change his appearance over a long period of time. That is why he was able to hide in Great Jin for more than 2,000 years. Now Su Zimo has transformed into a young man who has not recovered from a serious illness and is participating in the immortal sex selection. There is also a drawing of this young man on the back of the letter. Although the drawing is very ordinary, if you see the real person, you will be able to recognize him." Just as Duke Yuanzhua was talking, the letter in Guxing's hand suddenly burst into flames. The two of them hurriedly cast spells to extinguish the flames on the letter, but to no avail. In the blink of an eye, the letter turned into ashes and dissipated in midair, leaving no trace behind. Duke Yuanzhua and Guxing looked at each other and could see the fear in each other's eyes. The methods of the person who wrote the letter were unpredictable and far superior to the two of them. The main hall suddenly fell silent. After a long time, Guxing asked, "What do you think, Your Highness?" Duke Yuanzhua clenched his fists and said in a low voice, "I'd rather believe it than not. Since we have this news, we have to go to Panlong Mountain Range to see what's going on. If Su Zimo really joins the four immortal sects after the immortal sex selection, it will be difficult to deal with him." Guxing nodded and said, "Even if the news is wrong, we will have made a wasted trip at most. We won't lose anything. However, Panlong Mountain Range is no longer under Great Jin's jurisdiction. Even if we go there, I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with." Duke Yuanzhua pondered for a while and said, "Go and gather the executioner guards first. I will leave after I send a message. The immortal sex selection is about to end. Let's leave immediately and not delay." Chapter 21:15. Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. The immortal sex selection was still ongoing. As time passed, the number of cultivators left in the valley dwindled. To the surprise of most of the cultivators, the level 6 Earth Immortal, who was supposed to be eliminated, soon did not leave. On the contrary, the sickly young man seemed to have suddenly become alive and full of energy, running up and down all the time, with scarcely a moment's rest. On the first day in the valley, he escaped from the encirclement of Lai Feng and the pursuit of Qi Hong Countess. Then, he defeated a rank 7 Earth Immortal and obtained dozens of coiling dragon tokens. On the third day, he met another rank 7 Earth Immortal. His method was still simple. He used his speed to catch his opponent off guard and obtained dozens of coiling dragon tokens. In the following days, When the youth met rank 8 and rank 9 Earth Immortals, he did not hesitate to turn and run. In the valley, even Chi-Hong Countess could not catch up with him, let alone others. They could only watch him leave. If he were to encounter a lone level 7 Earth Immortal, this young man would take the initiative to step forward and engage in a fierce battle. Furthermore, he would always emerge victorious without any mishaps. However, on the 15th day, the situation gradually changed. There were more than 10 days left before the immortal sex selection ended. There were only about 500 cultivators left in the valley. Most of them had been eliminated. Among the remaining 500 people, almost all of them were level 8 or level 9 Earth Immortals. As for Su Zimo, he had not met a single level 7 Earth Immortal for more than 4 days. He currently had more than 300 coiling dragon tokens in his storage pouch. There was still a long way to go before he needed 1,800. If nothing goes wrong, the number of coiling dragon tokens this person has should not change much. That's too difficult. A cultivator who was watching the battle said, "This person's body refining technique is so strong, and his methods are not weak either. He can even kill those above his level, but he only got 300 coiling dragon tokens." Another person pursed his lips and said, "The immortal sex selection only takes place once every 100 years. What does that mean?" It means that in the entire Divine Cloud continent, only one Earth Immortal can join the 4 major immortal sects every year. Don't you think it's difficult? It's harder than reaching the heavens. High up in the sky, clouds and mist surged, and immortal chi was faintly discernible. Yang Ruoxia shook his head and said, "This can't go on. If he wants to get enough coiling dragon tokens, he has to find level 8 Earth Immortals to fight." There were not many tier 7 Earth Immortals left in the valley. Moreover, there weren't many coiling dragon medallions on level 7 Earth Immortals. Even if Su Zimo were to find all the remaining 7th tier Earth Immortals and seize their coiling dragon tokens, it would still be very difficult for him to gather 1,800 tokens. Level 8 Earthly Immortal? Difficult. Tian Yuan slowly spat out a few words. In order to defeat a level 8 Earth deity, one had to surpass the gap of 2 stages. The difficulty was multiplied. Moreover, all the level 8 Earth Immortals who could hold on until now had powerful means and trump cards. Even in a battle of the same level, the outcome was hard to predict, not to mention that there was a gap of 2 minor levels. Celestial Immortal Azure Peak suddenly said, "This kid's movement techniques aren't bad. He's quite suited for training at our Windrider Monastery." "What's the use of being suitable?" Celestial Immortal White Sea chuckled. "If this kid only has 300 or so coiling dragon medallions, no matter how suitable he is, we can't break the rules." Just then, Yang Ruoxia exclaimed softly, "This kid has encountered a level 8 Earth Immortal. In the past 10 days or so, he's encountered countless level 8 and level 9 Earth Immortals. If worse comes to worst, he'll just turn and run. What's so strange about that?" Celestial Immortal White Sea waved his folding fan nonchalantly. "He's not running," Tian Yuan said in a low voice. Celestial Immortal White Sea and the others' expressions changed as they all looked over. In the valley, the sickly youth was facing off against a yellow-robed middle-aged man. However, he did not run away and seemed to be preparing to fight. "Looks like this kid has also realized where the problem lies and wants to challenge a level 8 Earth Immortal to obtain enough coiling dragon tokens," Yang Ruoxia said. Celestial Immortal Azure Peak frowned. "This middle-aged man is called Xiao Yun. He's extremely strong and once suppressed another level 9 Earth Immortal in a single battle. Yes, this Xiao Yun should have more than 800 coiling dragon tokens in his storage pouch," Celestial Immortal White Sea said. "It's easy for this kid to escape with his movement techniques. However, if he wants to win, there's almost no chance." In the valley, Xiao Yun looked at Su Zimo not far away with a mocking expression and chuckled. "We met once before and you turned and ran. Why aren't you running this time?" The last time they met, Su Zimo changed his direction and ran all the way without any intention of fighting. Xiao Yun chased him until he almost vomited blood, but failed to catch up. This time, when he saw Su Zimo again, he did not plan to chase after him. "I'm not running this time." I'm going to take your coiling dragon tokens. Su Zimo shook his head slightly and said frankly, not hiding his intentions. Haha. Xiao Yun laughed out loud, as if he could not believe it. He asked in return, You? A level 6 Earth Immortal? It was not that he was underestimating Su Zimo. With his level 8 Earth Origin cultivation, he had lasted until now and obtained more than 800 coiling dragon tokens. This in itself was enough to prove his strength. Xiao Yun even had the combat strength to kill opponents above his level. And now, a level 6 Earth Immortal, a cultivator 2 levels lower than him, had declared that he wanted to take his coiling dragon tokens. To him, this was the biggest joke in the world. Swoosh. Without saying a word, Su Zimo moved and arrived in front of Xiao Yun in the blink of an eye. He raised his palm and formed the Great Chaos Palm, pressing down on Xiao Yun's head. In the previous battles, Su Zimo had not used any secret combat skills. He only used the speed of his movement technique to catch his opponent off guard. There was only one combat technique. But now, Su Zimo's first attack was the Great Chaos Essence Palm. Although Xiao Yun was smiling, he was actually on high alert. He was constantly watching Su Zimo's every move. It was not by luck that he had lasted until now. Su Zimo's speed was so fast that even he was wary of it. Naturally, he would not be careless. The moment Su Zimo moved, Xiao Yun touched his storage pouch and took out a huge shield. He raised it high. Bam! Su Zimo's Great Chaos Palm landed heavily on the shield, making a muffled sound. What a guy! Xiao Yun's body trembled as he took in a deep breath. Although he was prepared, Su Zimo's palm still shook his qi and blood, causing his arm to go numb. At the same time, he was secretly delighted. His shield was not ordinary. It could be used for both offense and defense. On the surface of the shield, there were countless barbed spikes. If it landed on his body, it would tear off a large piece of flesh. Su Zimo's palm had exploded with such ferocious power. If it landed on his shield, the young man's palm would have been pierced through and turned into a bloody mess. After blocking the palm strike, Xiao Yun took the opportunity to glance and was stunned. Su Zimo's palm was as fair as jade and did not look injured at all. He looked at the surface of the shield in his hand and saw that a palm-shaped spike had been flattened. Chapter 21:16. That shield was a perfect-grade earthly immortal dermic treasure. What sort of body is that? It's actually so terrifying. Xiao Yun was shocked. Both sides had already broken out in battle, and Su Zimo had attacked once more. So he did not have the time to think. Xiao Yun howled and circulated his blood qi before withdrawing a gigantic axe from his storage bag. He held a shield in one hand and an axe in the other as he fought against Su Zimo. The more Xiao Yun fought, the more shocked he was. From the beginning until the end, Su Zimo had not utilized any dermic treasures and merely used his bare hands to suppress Xiao Yun completely without any room to resist. His shield and axe could not gain the slightest advantage against Su Zimo's body. Both sides merely exchanged 7 to 8 rounds before Xiao Yun's arms felt sore. His teeth loosened and seeped with blood while his mouth tasted salty. Every single move of this seemingly sickly young man seemed to possess boundless strength. Moreover, the strength of every single punch and palm strike was increasingly ferocious and vast like an ocean. It seemed as though it wanted to engulf him and blast him into nothingness. Xiao Yun was unable to imagine how such a seemingly frail body could possess such terrifying strength. After all, Su Zimo was currently in the 10th grade Qinglian true body. Even without utilizing his bloodline, he could go head-on against Khanate Earth-grade dermic treasures. He cultivated the Void Thunder technique and possessed the Bone of Lightning. Even without utilizing the slightest bit of blood qi, the strength of every single punch and kick far surpassed what it was in the past. Xiao Yun had not even cultivated to the level of Tsunami Blood, and was far inferior to Qinglian True Body, that possessed the Bone of Lightning. If it wasn't for the difference of 2 minor realms, Xiao Yun would not even be able to withstand a single palm strike from Su Zimo. Xiao Yun received a few more punches from Su Zimo, and the bones in his entire body creaked. If this continued, his bones would fall apart, and his organs would be shattered. Good. Xiao Yun had a ruthless expression as he wiped off the bloodstain on the corner of his mouth, and then he stared fiercely at Su Zimo as he said, "This trump card of mine was originally prepared for the other earthly immortal realm experts. Since you've forced me to this extent, then don't blame me." Having said that, Xiaoyan slapped his storage bag. This was a single storage pouch, and 4 figures actually jumped out from it. These 4 figures were similar to humans, but their bodies were wrapped in some kind of metal, shining with a dark golden luster. "Puppet." Su Zimo frowned slightly. "Not bad." Xiaoyan yelled, "Hold him back." The 4 puppets split into 4 different directions and charged toward Su Zimo expressionlessly. Su Zimo raised his hand and punched a puppet in the chest, sending it flying. Then with a backhand he slapped another puppet's face, sending it flying more than 100 feet away. The 2 puppets quickly climbed to their feet. One of the puppets' chest had caved in deeply, almost pierced through by Su Zimo's punch. The other puppet's head was also deformed by Su Zimo's punch. However, these 2 puppets were not affected at all, nor did they feel any pain. Once again they charged toward Su Zimo. This was the terror of puppets. Without pain they did not fear death. On the other side, Xiaoyan finally had a chance to catch his breath. He swallowed a handful of spiritual pills, and began to activate his primordial spirit, activating his immortal skills and secret skills. He took out his Dharma treasure, and joined forces with the 4 puppets to attack Su Zimo fiercely. In an instant, Su Zimo was besieged and seemed to be in a tight spot. He was surrounded by danger, and had no strength to fight back. Sigh. On the mountain range a cultivator sighed. It's a pity that he met such a strong opponent like Xiaoyan. Otherwise, I think this rank 6 earthly immortal would have a chance to defeat a rank 8 earthly immortal. Yes, he does have some tricks up his sleeve, since he dared to participate in the immortal sex selection. It's a pity that he can't hold on any longer. Many cultivators' attitudes towards Su Zimo had gradually changed. High up in the sky, Heaven Immortal by Hai shook his head. This kid can't hold on much longer. If he doesn't have any other tricks up his sleeve, the outcome will be decided in another 10 rounds. Heaven Immortal Qing Feng said, "What a pity." The moment Xiaoyan released the puppets, the kid's only chance was to avoid them and escape. Now that he's surrounded by the 4 puppets, and suppressed by Xiaoyan's immortal skills, there's no chance for him to escape. Yang Ruoxia said, "Even a rank 9 earthly immortal wouldn't have a chance of winning against Xiaoyan and the 4 puppets." Lu Wenbin, who was standing behind Yang Ruoxia, was somewhat indignant. He smirked and muttered softly, "He doesn't know his place. Even without Xiaoyan, he'll meet other experts and be taught a lesson sooner or later." At this moment, the battle situation in the valley suddenly changed. The sickly young man's body trembled, and his hands continuously formed seals. Suddenly, a vast star map appeared above his head. There were large areas of the star map that were dim. However, just the area that was lit up was already shocking enough. Countless stars floated in the sky, sprinkling down billions of rays of starlight onto the body of this young man. The young man shone with resplendent starlight from head to toe, resembling a god beneath the starry skies that could not be looked at directly. Ah, what's that? Could it be a bloodline phenomenon? I'm not sure. I didn't see him activate his bloodline. A series of exclamations sounded from outside the valley. Within the clouds, the eyes of the 4 heaven immortals shone brightly as they rose at the same time, looking at the valley with shocked expressions. That's not a bloodline phenomenon. Heavenly Yuan shook his head slowly. This star map seems to be. Heaven Immortal Qing Feng pondered. It should be the mystic spirit dipper diagram. Yang Ruoxia said deeply. That's right. Heaven Immortal Qing Feng's eyes lit up as he blurted out. It's the mystic spirit dipper diagram. Who would have thought that the legendary Star Palace secret technique would actually reappear? Senior brother by Hai. Right then, a disciple of Flying Immortal Sect stepped forward and said, "There was news a while ago that a cultivator obtained the inheritance of Astral Sect. Thereafter, that cultivator disappeared. Seems like there's no mistake." Heaven Immortal by Hai roared in laughter. It should be him. The 4 Heaven Immortals looked at Su Zimo with admiration, as though they were looking at a treasure. In the valley, Su Zimo summoned the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram, and his combat strength increased tremendously. He attacked once more and tore two puppets apart from the middle. The remaining two puppets were shattered by him, and lost their combat strength as well. Instantly, the situation was reversed. Xiao Yan no longer had any helpers, and was left alone to face Su Zimo, with the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram above his head. There was no longer any doubt about the outcome. Su Zimo charged forward and defeated Xiao Yan in just a few rounds, snatching the 800-odd coiling dragon badges from the latter's storage bag. Xiao Yan felt wronged. He did not know what the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram was, nor did he know what had happened. It was as though he had been defeated by a rank 6 Earth immortal all of a sudden. The spectators in Coiling Dragon Mountain Range exclaimed in surprise. Many cultivators were excited and engaged in heated discussions. Su Zimo, on the other hand, was calm. Although this battle seemed to be very exciting, with the ups and downs, it was all within his control. Even revealing the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram was intentional. Firstly, it would not expose his identity. Secondly, it would reveal some of his abilities, which would be enough to attract the attention of the four major immortal sects. If Su Zimo really wanted to defeat Xiao Yan, one round would be enough. Chapter 21:17. Above the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range, Heaven Immortal by High waved his folding fan and chuckled. Including Xiao Yan's 800-plus Coiling Dragon badges, this lad should have more than 1,200 Coiling Dragon badges. $1,241. Heavenly Abyss said a number. No one doubted the authenticity of that number. Heavenly Abyss was a man of few words, but he had been paying attention to Su Zimo the entire time. Yang Ruoxin nodded slightly and said, "He has the help of the mystic spirit Big Dipper diagram. Since he can defeat Xiao Yan, who is 2 minor realms above him, it won't be difficult for him to gather 1,800 Coiling Dragon badges in this valley." In the eyes of the four of them, Su Zimo's current capabilities were enough to place him in the final 100. By the time the Immortal Sex selection was over, this young man might not have the most Coiling Dragon badges. However, to a certain extent, the talent that this person displayed surpassed the others, and was definitely not weaker than the Scarlet Rainbow Princess or the Yunlei Duke. This person was only a rank 6 Earth Immortal, but his potential was too great. In the eyes of the four Heaven Immortals, this young man was the most outstanding and dazzling cultivator in this Immortal Sect selection, who was most worthy of being recruited into a sect. Suddenly, Heaven Immortal Qingfeng said, "Everyone, this lad's movement technique is outstanding, and he's most suitable to cultivate in our Imperial Wind Monastery. Fellow Taoists, please don't fight with me for this person." Fellow Taoist Qingfeng, if I remember correctly, you were rather disdainful of him back then, and even threw him into Lai Feng's group, hoping that he would be eliminated as soon as possible. Yang Ruoxia sneered and looked at Heaven Immortal Qingfeng mocking. "Why? You want to recruit him into the Imperial Wind Monastery now? Brother Yang, you must be joking." Heaven Immortal Qingfeng's expression did not change. "I had my reasons for doing that back then. It was mainly to test him, and let him reveal his true abilities. I had no ill intentions." Celestial Immortal Azure Peak didn't blush in the slightest as he spouted such nonsense. "Fufu." Heaven Immortal by Hai chuckled. "Fellow Taoist Qingfeng, others might not believe you even if you say that. In my opinion, the sect that this lad has the least chance of joining is your Imperial Wind Monastery." "Humph," Heaven Immortal Green Peak said proudly. "Joining the Imperial Wind Monastery will bring him the greatest benefits. He'll be able to fully utilize his advantages. He's a smart man, so he should know this." "Not necessarily." The Heaven Abyss, who was silent for a long time, suddenly opened his mouth and said, "This boy's fleshy body is still all right. He's also quite methodical in close combat. Of the four great immortal sects, the Mountain and Sea Immortal Sect is the strongest in body refinement. If this kid joins the Mountain and Sea Immortal Sect, he'll be able to cultivate a top-tier body refinement technique and learn some high-level close combat techniques. That will be of great help to him." Tian Yuan rarely spoke and always cherished his words like gold. Who would have thought that in order to fight over Su Zimo, he would actually say such a long speech? Young Wuxia shook his head slightly and said, "This kid lacks immortal techniques and secret arts while Cosmos Academy has many. In my opinion, joining Cosmos Academy is the right choice." The number of Su Zimo's coiling dragon badges had yet to reach 1,800, but the people in charge of the 4 major immortal sects were already fighting for them. The 4 of them knew that if nothing unexpected happened, this young man would definitely be able to obtain a sufficient number of coiling dragon tokens. Whoosh! Heaven Immortal by High opened his folding fan and said with a smile, "Let's stop fighting for now. There are still more than 10 days left, so let's think about it slowly. Since everyone is interested in this child, the final choice still lies with this child." Just then a group of cultivators sped over from afar. The 2 people in the lead had strong auras and a murderous aura. They had come with ill intentions. "Look, Duke Yuanzhua of the Dajin Immortal Nation is here. The immortal sex selection this time is really lively, including Duke Yuanzhua. There are dukes and princesses from all 3 major immortal nations. Duke Yuanzhua is followed by more than 100 executioner earth guards. They don't seem to have good intentions." Many cultivators on the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range saw the commotion in the distance and whispered among themselves. Heaven Immortal by High, Yang Ruoxu, and the other 2 had naturally seen Duke Yuanzhua long ago. However, the 4 of them were expressionless and did not stand up. Duke Yuanzhua was no longer the same as before. Duke Yuanzhua of the Dajin Immortal Nation had many children. A duke or princess without a territory was far inferior to them. The fact that the 4 of them could represent their sex to preside over the immortal sex selection was enough to prove their status in the sex. Even when facing Duke Yuanzhua, who had a powerful and honorable status in the past, they treated him as equals. There was no difference in seniority between them. Duke Yuanzhua and Gu Xing stood side by side. They led 112 executioner earth guards to the sky above the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. They looked down from above and patrolled the valley, looking for their target. "Your Highness, look there." After a while, Gu Xing's expression changed. He suddenly pointed at a figure on the water screen and said. Duke Yuanzhua looked in the direction Gu Xing was pointing at, and his eyes narrowed. In the valley, there was indeed a young man with a yellowish face who looked like he had not recovered from a serious illness. He looked almost the same as the person on the back of the letter. Before this, Duke Yuanzhua had suspected that the letter might be a trap, or that someone was toying with him. However, now that things had come to this, he believed that it was mostly true. "Your Highness, should we ask the 4 major immortal sects for him?" Gu Xing asked through his divine consciousness. "Don't be hasty." Duke Yuanzhua took a deep breath and calmed himself down. He said through his divine consciousness, "Get someone to ask around and find out about this young man's background." This was no small matter. There were millions of cultivators on the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. If something really went wrong, he could not afford to lose face and bear such a loss. Gu Xing hurriedly sent a voice transmission to the executioner earth guards behind him. Before long, the executioner earth guards reported back with the information they had gathered. Gu Xing said, "This person's background is unknown. No one knows his name. This person suddenly appeared here more than 10 days ago and participated in the immortal sex selection. He also knows the astral sex secret skill. His movement technique is very fast. It's said that he knows a divine power called golden wings. He's even faster than Princess Qi Hong's movement technique." Golden wings. Duke Yuanzhua's heart skipped a beat. He had seen Su Zimo use this technique before. In fact, after hearing the first few pieces of information, Duke Yuanzhua was almost certain that the young man in the valley was Su Zimo, whom he had been searching for. However, it had only been 2,000 years since they last met. Su Zimo had reached rank 6 Earth Deity. His cultivation speed was so fast that Duke Yuanzhua could not accept it. "Your Highness, it should be him," Gu Xing said in a low voice. Good. Duke Yuanzhua's eyes were cold as he stared at the figure in the valley. He gritted his teeth and said, "Su Zimo, I finally found you. You almost succeeded. Unfortunately, I was one step ahead of you." Duke Yuanzhua sneered and said, Let's go and ask the 4 major immortal sects for him. Chapter 21:18. Duke Yuanzhua and Guxing led the executioner guards into the air and stood in front of the 4 major immortal sects. I'm Yuanzhua from Great Jin. Greetings, fellow Taoists. Duke Yuanzhua cupped his fists and greeted Sky Immortal Bai Hai and the others. He looked at Sky Immortal Bai Hai with a warmer gaze. After all, Sky Immortal Bai Hai was an inner sect disciple of the Flying Immortal sect. Mengyao was a core disciple of the Flying Immortal sect. Furthermore, he was Mengyao brother. From this point of view, he seemed to be somewhat related to Sky Immortal Bai Hai. Duke Yuanzhua, how have you been? Sky Immortal Bai Hai smiled gently and stood up. He closed his fan and cupped his fists in return. Tianyuan nodded slightly and did not stand up. This was considered a greeting. Yang Ruoxia stood up and returned the greeting. He merely nodded and went through the motions before sitting back down. Sky Immortal Qing Feng did not stand up, nor did he return the greeting. He merely smiled and asked, Duke Yuanzhua, what brings you here? There was a hint of sarcasm in Sky Immortal Qing Feng's tone. If Duke Yuanzhua was still the same, he would not dare to do so. But now, Duke Yuanzhua's status had dropped drastically, and he had lost his territory. Naturally, Sky Immortal Qing Feng would look down on him. Guxing's expression darkened, and he did not say anything. Duke Yuanzhua pretended not to notice and smiled. It's not a big deal. Recently, I received news that a wanted criminal of the Great Jin Immortal Nation is near the Coiling Dragon Mountain Range. So, I brought some people here to take a look. At this point, Duke Yuanzhua paused for a moment and looked at Sky Immortal Bai Hai and the others. Tianyuan, Yang Ruoxia and Sky Immortal Qing Feng were all old and experienced. They were expressionless and did not react. Although Sky Immortal Bai Hai was still smiling, he did not say anything. Duke Yuanzhua could not tell what he was thinking. The 4 of them did not say anything. There was a moment of silence and awkwardness. Duke Yuanzhua took a deep breath and could only continue. I want to capture this criminal and bring him back to Great Jin. But out of respect, I still have to greet the 4 of you. Oh, Sky Immortal Bai Hai raised his brows and asked, where is this criminal? Commandery Prince Yuanzhua turned around slightly and pointed at a figure in the valley. That's him. The direction that Commandery Prince Yuanzhua was pointing at was where Su Zimo was. Celestial Immortal White Sea and the other 3 all frowned. The crowd below also became restless when they saw this scene. Duke Yuanzhua quickly said, this man is the criminal that our Dajin Celestial Nation has been hunting for over 2,000 years, Su Zimo. The crowd was in an uproar. This Tier 6 Earth Immortal is Su Zimo? I heard that 2,000 years ago, Su Zimo was only a Tier 1 Earth Immortal. How could his cultivation progress be so fast? That doesn't seem right. I've seen a portrait of Su Zimo from the Celestial Nation of Dajin. It seems to be somewhat different from this young man. Waves of noise came from the mountain range. Bai Hai frowned slightly as well. Fellow Taoist Yuanzhua, are you mistaken? There's no mistake, Commandery Prince Yuanzhua said in a deep voice. This Su Zimo is good at disguising himself. It's almost the same as shapeshifting. This appearance is just a disguise. I hope that all of you can give me some face and detain this person. I'll bring him back to Dajin. I'll be eternally grateful. A troubled look appeared on Celestial Immortal Bai Hai's face. He laughed dryly and glanced at the 3 people beside him. Yang Ruoxia and the other 2 did not react. It was as if they did not hear what Commandery Prince Yuanzhua had said. Just now the 4 of them were fighting to recruit that person into their sect. Now, they were going to hand him over just because of Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's words? This was no different from slapping their own faces. In other words, so what if Su Zimo was a criminal wanted by the Dajin Celestial Nation? As long as his talent and potential were strong enough, the 4 major immortal sects would dare to recruit him. This time, even Celestial Immortal White Sea did not say anything. The scene became quiet again. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's face was dark. He had already lowered his status and said such words in front of everyone. However, Celestial Immortal White Sea and the other 3 were still unmoved. The crowd below was noisy. Even Commandery Prince Yuanzhua found it irritating. Gu Xing finally could not take it anymore. He snorted and asked loudly, "My 4 friends, this Su Zimo is a criminal of the Dajin Celestial Nation. Do you want to offend the Dajin Celestial Nation just because of a rank 6 Earth deity?" "Hehe," Celestial Immortal Qing Feng sneered. "Commander Gu Xing, you're really impressive. What? You're just the executioner of the Dajin Celestial Nation. You want to interfere with the 4 major immortal sects? You." Gu Xing was speechless. His face turned pale. Tianyuan snorted. "This is the Panlong Mountain, not the Dajin Celestial Nation." Heaven Abyss's voice was like a surging tide, reverberating in the valley, rumbling, containing a powerful might and will. Gu Xing's question did not have any effect. Instead, it provoked Celestial Immortal Qing Feng and the others. It was not Gu Xing's fault. The executioner's executioner was used to doing whatever they wanted in the Dajin Celestial Nation. After leaving the Dajin Celestial Nation, Gu Xing did not have the intention to restrain himself. No matter how powerful the 3 major immortal kingdoms were, they could not control the 4 major immortal sects. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua knew that he could not be forceful if he wanted to resolve this matter. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua suppressed the anger in his heart and smiled again. He cupped his fists and said, "Gu Xing is a little reckless. Please forgive me. Su Zimo is indeed a criminal of the Dajin Celestial Nation. He's even related to Feng Cantian. I hope you can help me. I'll repay you handsomely in the future." Feng Cantian. He was a taboo in the entire Divine Firmament celestial realm. Even the 4 major immortal sects did not dare to take Feng Cantian in. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua mentioned Feng Cantian to make Celestial Immortal by High, and the others feel pressured. After a long silence, Yang Ruoxia shook his head and said, "He's not Feng Cantian. Even if he's related to him, it doesn't matter. Moreover, he's participating in the immortal sex selection in the valley. We can't break the rules and interfere with the selection process. Everything will have to wait until the immortal sex selection is over." Commandery Prince Yuanzhua frowned. If the immortal sex selection was over and Su Zimo was one of the last 100 people, he could join the 4 major immortal sects at any time. Wouldn't that be even more difficult? Yang Ruoxia's words were obviously stalling for time. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua realized this, but did not dare to point it out. He looked at Su Zimo in the valley, and the hatred in his heart rose to the extreme. He could not wait to rush into the valley and tear this person to pieces. Suddenly, a thought flashed across Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's mind. He had an idea, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. "Since the immortal sex selection has begun and you can't interfere, I won't force the 4 of you." Commandery Prince Yuanzhua paused for a while, and then changed the topic. He asked, "However, I heard that Su Zimo is participating in the immortal sex selection midway?" "Yes." Yang Ruoxia nodded. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua smiled and said, "Since Su Zimo is participating midway, does that mean that as long as the other people meet the requirements, they can also enter this valley and participate in the immortal sex selection?" As he spoke, Commandery Prince Yuanzhua turned around and glanced at the 100 executioners behind him. Chapter 2119. Hearing this, Yang Ruoxia and the other 3 frowned. With their cultivation and intelligence, they could tell what Duke Yuanzhua was trying to do. Duke Yuanzhua was going to send his executioners, Earth Squad, to participate in the immortal sex selection. This way, the 100 over executioners Earth Squad would be able to enter the valley to hunt down Su Zimo. The 4 of them wanted to recruit Su Zimo into their sect. Deep down, they did not want Su Zimo to be surrounded by the 100 over executioners Earth Squad and die in the valley. They also did not want him to fall into the hands of Duke Yuanzhua. Thinking of this, the 4 of them fell silent. Duke Yuanzhua sneered in his heart and asked, "What's wrong? Are the 4 of you going to favor one over the other? Su Zimo can participate in the selection but the rest can't?" This time, the 4 Sky Immortals did not refute. Duke Yuanzhua was right in this matter, and the 4 of them had nothing to say. "That's right. Why can Su Zimo enter but the rest can't? This is not fair." The four major immortal sects have to treat everyone equally. There can't be any bias. Many cultivators in the Panlong mountain range were worried that the matter would not be blown out of proportion. Yang Ruoxia sighed in his heart and said, "The rest of them can participate in the selection, but this guy did not bring the Panlong order with him." "No problem," Duke Yuanzhua immediately said. "The 112 executioners Earth Squad behind me also do not need to bring the Panlong order with them. The Panlong order could save one's life, and also give one a chance to join the four major immortal sects." The executioners Earth Squad only had one purpose in entering the valley, and that was to hunt down Su Zimo. They were all top elites among the Earth Immortals. Facing a rank 6 Earth Immortal, there was no need for them to save their lives. Under the circumstances, the four Sky Immortals had no choice but to agree. Otherwise, if word got out, the immortal sex selection would be unfair, and the reputation of the four major immortal sects would be tarnished. Sky Immortal Green Peak asked, "Duke Yuanzhua, how many people are you going to send into the valley?" "Of course, all the executioners Earth Squad that I brought today," Commandery Prince Yuanzhua said slowly with a cold tone. All 112 executioner earthly guards entered the valley. This time, Commandery Prince Yuanzhua would not allow any accidents to happen. The four celestial immortals were silent. Those who were able to become executioner earthly guards were all top-notch earthly immortal experts. Even Su Zimo might not be able to deal with such earth immortals if he sent a few of them. If he used his movement technique, he might still have a chance at survival. However, if all 112 executioner Earth Guards were to be sent in, given their tacit understanding, it would be easy for them to form an encirclement. At that time, Su Zimo wouldn't even have the chance to escape. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua obviously wanted to kill them all. Heaven Abyss suddenly said, "If over 100 execution Earthen Guards enter the mountain valley at this time, it will surely affect the immortal sect's general election and affect the final result. It will destroy the balance. This is not a good idea." What Tian Yuan said was not without reason. These 100 or so executioners all listened to Commandery Prince Yuanzhua's orders. If they entered the valley and worked together, who could fight against them? Fellow cultivators, don't worry. When these executioner Earth Guards enter the valley, other than Su Zimo, they won't attack anyone else. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua seemed to have expected that someone would raise this point. He smiled and said calmly, "As long as we capture Su Zimo, these people will stay put and wait for orders until the immortal sect's general election is over. They won't do anything else. What fellow cultivator Heaven Abyss is worried about will definitely not happen." This time, the four celestial immortals really couldn't think of any reason to reject. "Commandery Prince Yuanzhua, please." Celestial Immortal Bai Hai nodded slightly, indicating that Commandery Prince Yuanzhua could give the order. "Thank you, everyone." Commandery Prince Yuanzhua smiled and cupped his hands in thanks. Then he turned around and looked at the 100 or so executioner Earth Guards behind him. The smile on his face had already disappeared. "Executioner Earth Guards, listen up," Commandery Prince Yuanzhua shouted. Yes, the 112 executioner Earth Guards responded at the same time. Their voices were like thunder. However, no matter what happened outside, the cultivators participating in the immortal sect's general election in the valley couldn't sense it at all. The water screen not only had the function of a mirror image, but it could also block out sound and vision. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua said in a deep voice, "Enter the valley and split into 10 teams. Each team has 11 people. The remaining 2 will form a team and search for Su Zimo's whereabouts. After you see Su Zimo, don't hesitate. Send out a message and gather everyone here to surround him. This person's movement technique is extremely fast. This time, we can't let him escape." "Yes, Commandery Prince," the executioner Earth Guard shouted. Commandery Prince Yuanzhua said firmly, "Remember, I want him alive." The coiling dragon valley below was like a prison. In his eyes, Su Zimo was a bird trapped in this prison. He couldn't escape even if he had wings. He hated Su Zimo to the core and wouldn't let Su Zimo die so easily. He wanted to capture Su Zimo alive and torture him day and night. Moreover, he wanted to interrogate Su Zimo about many things, such as the jade talisman, the ever-changing mystique of the golden wings. Fellow cultivator, may I trouble you to send my men into the valley? Commandery Prince Yuan's was said to buy high and the rest after sending out his orders. Yang Wuxia hesitated for a moment, but still waved his sleeves and sent the 112 executioner Earth Guards into the valley. However, he purposely placed the executioner Earth Guards in a position furthest away from Su Zimo. Even if they met, it would take some time. Actually, Yang Wuxia and the rest knew that in this sealed valley, it would be too easy for the executioner Earth Guards to find Su Zimo's whereabouts. Such an arrangement was nothing more than a slight delay. The 112 executioner Earth Guards entered the valley. As soon as they landed, they quickly split into 10 teams. Most of the members in each team were ranked 9 Earth Immortals, and the leader was the commander of the executioner Earth Guards. The remaining 2 executioner Earth Guards were both rank 8 Earth Immortals. Li Xian, Zheng Mao, the 2 of you will be in a team. One of the executioner Earth Guards said, "When you meet Su Zimo, don't be in a hurry to attack. Send out the signal first." "Yes, sir." The 2 of them cupped their fists and replied, "Disperse, find the target." The executioner Earth Guard commander ordered. The 112 executioner Earth Guards split into different teams and quickly dispersed. They each went their own way and disappeared into the dense forest. Seeing this, Commandery Prince Yuan's was smirked and clenched his fists. The show is about to begin. The crowd on the coiling Dragon Mountain range was excited again. The 4 Sky Immortals looked at each other speechless. No matter how much they valued Su Zimo, and how much they cherished his talent, they couldn't interfere with the Immortal Sect's selection. That was a serious crime that no one could bear. In other words, Su Zimo couldn't avoid this calamity. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.